Seoul, South Korea has entrusted its future to a single person. And that person is none other than Jang Shiwan, the leader of the Junghwa Guild. In front of Shiwan lies the aftermath of the battle with Kong Hu. Onlookers gape in disbelief, unable to comprehend that the Junghwa Guild has.
Meanwhile, Shiwan himself bears considerable injuries.
His eyes remain sharp, recognizing that only the two of them remain. You and I are the only ones left. You are the world's enemy, Shin Kang-hu. At this moment, Shiwan's entire body trembles with a sense of helplessness. He couldn't hold back any longer, exclaiming, "Because of this pointless battle you started, everyone suffers." The very next moment, Shiwan seems to draw strength as he shouts, "It's all because of a demon like you." In contrast, Kang-hu smirks with utter contempt, amusing. Shiwan's next words seem to strike at Kang-hu's pride. "Who do you think you are? The embodiment of justice?" Immediately, Shiwan gathers magical energy to prepare an attack. "Shin Kang-hu, how dare you speak of justice?" Now, Shiwan voices his own frustrations. "I fight for everyone." His words cause a momentary shock among them, "But you always stand in my way." Even the children are moved by his words. If not a demon, then what are you? Now, the crowd boldly chants his name, Jang Shihuan. It seems he has gained the affection of the surrounding crowd. Jang Shihuan. And this makes Shihuan feel very confident as he asserts, "Everyone is cheering for me." Afterward, he creates a magic barrier and shouts, "I will never fall." Then Shihuan unleashes the energy toward Kang-hu. This causes Kang-hu's pupils to widen in shock. The next moment, the area is engulfed in a massive explosion. With Kang-hu unable to stand, Shiwan slowly approaches. The outcome of the battle has become evidently clear. Kang-hu is also covered in injuries. Now, he struggles to peek through the haze. Meanwhile, the crowd keeps chanting, "We believe in you, Jang Shiwan. Finish off that bastard." The cheers rise fervently. "Kill him." At this point, Shiwan arrogantly declares, "No one wishes for your survival." As he gathers magical energy in his hands, he states, "Here." Meanwhile, Kang-hu is exhausted to the point of only being able to clench his teeth in resentment. Just as he finishes speaking, Shiwan delivers a forceful strike toward Kang-hu. "It's the end for you." Kang-hu immediately spits out fresh blood, hurled back to the rocky ground. In a daze, he can still see Shiwan's arrogance. Then Shiwan quickly leaps into the air. He shows off with a radiant face and announces, "Everyone, our preparations have borne fruit." Not only that, he also mentions, "Now, perfect freedom shall be granted to this land." This makes all of them feel as if they can see the light of their lives. But just as he is basking in glory, the sky directly above Shiwan suddenly turns a fiery red. Then, continuous lightning strikes created an incredibly eerie atmosphere. Everyone present held their breath at the sight. Meanwhile, he wore a look of satisfaction on his face. At the moment, the giant hand reached out straight to where the civilians were standing. Nobody could hide their terror, and they screamed continuously, running away. In contrast, Shiwan laughed with immense satisfaction, feeling that finally the Demon King had descended, and now peace would. Meanwhile, Kang-hu, despite being in immense pain, had to admit the real disaster was. These words caused him to be unable to hide his amazement. "Shin Kang-hu, how are you still alive, you lowly insect? Open your eyes wide and behold." In Shiwan's voice there was a madness and ambition. "The fair world that I have just created." What happened next was beyond anyone's expectations, and thus, everything could only lead to one conclusion: the world had perished. Even in the vast universe, it was just a dwindling light about to fade. At that moment, Kang-hu also understood, "Thank you for the sincerity you have shown, the life of a villain who became a savior until now." Readers' expectations must have been entirely shattered. The main character, Jang Shiwan, is the Demon King's henchman, he and his allies, the 13 Stars. He can be considered a highly loyal, high-ranking demon. However, the novel is merely a reflection of reality, with the motif of this novel. It is based on Kang-hu's student life. That was a time when those in power could easily cover up school violence, and the true face of the world, where power could change good into evil. Therefore, he incorporated that reality into his novel. But readers were incredibly disappointed. Silveryun, Yuna, what's with the ending? Dog that barks sat shit that's no fun. The author should make himself the main character. You know you have to die first to be like him. Truth-speaking bear, bear. This negative reaction made Kang-hu feel utterly hopeless. It probably can't be fixed. He then decided to close the browser so he wouldn't see them anymore. However, when the room was silent and Kang-hu was alone, those criticisms continued to echo in his mind. Why did the author have to put an open ending, even when lying down? He couldn't sleep peacefully because he remembered those words. This guy must be the type who brags and crosses his arms in real life, making Kang-hu want to escape reality immediately. But the negative reactions still clung to him. You are also the henchman who destroyed Reader's world, making him clench his teeth in frustration. It's not like that.
Kang Hu eventually realized something. I can't rewrite it anymore. Might as well get some sleep.
In his dream, Kang Hu saw a very blurry scene. Why is it so noisy?
Gradually, he began to see the image more clearly.
It was a crew continuously mining something. A while later, Kang Hu regained more clarity. The ground? At this moment, shouts echoed repeatedly. You wretched rag! How dare you, defy the blessing of the eclipse? Causing him great surprise. Did he just say eclipse?
And then, the guy kept stomping on the person lying on the ground.
This scene seemed to completely recreate everything from school, causing him to wonder, damn it, is that bastard appearing in my dream again? At the same time, the guy grabbed Shin by the collar and prepared to deliver a final blow. You useless scum, keep that uselessness for yourself, know your limits. At that moment, the guy's arm suddenly stopped in midair. Not only that, everyone froze and looked in one direction. At that moment, his eyes were filled with hatred. I'm wondering who it is. Finally, while fighting, Gavwan shouted angrily, You incompetent bastard, if you can't last a second here, what can you do? This made him wonder. Damn, why does it hurt so much even in a dream? At that moment, Gang Yu rushed over and intervened. Hey, let it go! Even though Gang Yu tried to persuade him, the target was far from meeting expectations. He still seemed extremely worried, but first, now, he felt utterly confused himself, thinking, is this really a dream? It feels so real.
Before leaving, Giwan didn't forget to threaten, I'll pick a day later and then beat you to death, you bastard.
At this moment, Shin hurriedly clutched his injured arm and ran over. Kang Hu, are you okay? As soon as he heard the familiar name, he paused. Kang Hu. Right after that, Kang Hu quickly looked down at his arm to check. Don't tell me. He suddenly sprang up wildly and ran off. Impossible. To be sure, Kang Hu pressed both hands to the ground to confirm. And just as Kang Hu predicted, he was feeling an incredibly strong flow of mana. Moreover, it was constantly converging into Kang Hu's body. This realization made Kang Hu recognize the power to absorb mana at will, indicating innate mana sensitivity. Afterward, Kang Hu even looked down at the water to check his appearance. At that moment, he was completely certain about one thing, thinking, damn it, that means I'm Shin Kang Hu. This made Kang Hu unable to hide a triumphant smile, realizing he was none other than Shin Kang Hu. As Shin approached with an apologetic demeanor, saying, It's all my fault, I'm sorry, Kang Hu thought, if this person is still alive, it means there are 5 years left before the end. He quickly calculated, thinking, if I become Zhang Shiwan, at least the world will recognize me as a hero, but then, it would all end with the Demon King descending, and only his henchmen would be saved. He thought, if the ending doesn't change, Kang Hu will die tragically. After thinking, he quickly got up, thinking, the good news is, Kang Hu's face also displayed certainty, thinking, I know how. Kang Hu had also grasped the storyline to escape from here. At this moment, Kang Hu also realized something, just as he thought when he took over someone else's body. It felt like the past and experiences of Shin Kang Hu. Thinking this, Kang Hu's eyes became even sharper, and he thought, they're all mine. Looking at the system panel again, he reminded himself, even though I'm still at this level. Suddenly, Kang Hu couldn't stand steadily and collapsed. This made him curse silently. Damn it, my stamina is too weak. I shouldn't have set up the innate mana sensitivity weakness just because he's a villain. He then picked up the stone, thinking, just as I thought, this is the only way. At the same time, Shin quickly ran over to him, Kang Hu. His voice was filled with worry as he asked, Are you all right? However, when Kang Hu assured him, Nothing's wrong, don't worry, Shin remained extremely concerned and offered, Shall I ask them for a break? He couldn't help but mock. If they were the kind of people to give you a break if you had a problem. Here, his voice grew even more bitter as he said, They wouldn't have brought us to this place. Because he understood all too well that at this detention center established by the crime organization Ecliptic, rookie hunters who can use mana are forced to work as slaves to mine mana stones. Thinking about it, Kang Hu then reassured him, Don't worry about me, just keep mining the stones. At this moment, Shin didn't leave immediately and asked, Kang Hu, are you? But before Shin could finish his sentence, Kang Hu completed it for him, thinking about escaping. As he stood up, his voice softened. Forget it, go back to work, or else you'll get beaten by the guards. After that, Kang Hu didn't forget to remind him, and don't do anything thoughtless, causing Shin to scratch his head awkwardly. All right. Afterwards, Kang Hu quickly plunged back into work, thinking, I've already warned him and done what I could. He thought to himself, he, after all, is just a character I created according to the trope. This made Kang Hu feel even more helpless upon realizing, I can't change the novel, or even touch the goal just by changing in order to escape, he thought. At that moment, they were still working tirelessly. Kang Hu was pushing a cart full of stones. He had to stop when he saw something. The scene before him was Gowon continuing to beat Shin.
Gowon's cold voice rang out. While the guards were focused on the newbies, some bastard tried to escape.
Gowon drew his sword while issuing a warning. Watch carefully. Before acting, he informed, "You'll be held accountable." Immediately after speaking, Gowon stabbed him through for those acts of madness. The scene left both Kang-hoo and the people around in shock. Gowon continued to act ruthlessly. Clearly, Shin couldn't survive this punishment. While others turned away abruptly to avoid the blood and witnessing the brutality, Kang-hoo stood still. He could only grit his teeth in anger, unable to do anything. After a while, Shin's hand lay completely motionless on the ground. Approaching, Kang-hoo couldn't help but curse quietly, thinking, "Stupid bastard, I told you not to do anything reckless." But everything had gone too far, and he could only stare at it. At that moment, the guy stepped over and said, "Why don't you step forward like last time? There's no one here to stop me from killing you too."
Kang-hoo replied coldly, "Whether he dies or not, I don't care."
This statement made the guy's pupils widen in unexpected surprise. Then Kang-hoo suggested, "More importantly, I need to go to the toilet," which surprised Gowon a little. Immediately after, the guy mocked, "You pathetic bastard, going to the bathroom alone?" Gowon laughed with utter satisfaction, saying, "All right then." Currently, he was still staring at the guy and said, "Follow me." Before that, Gowon didn't forget to warn, "I'll give you 1 minute." The guy seemed ready to carry out his words, saying, "If you take longer, this place will become your grave." Upon entering, Kang-hoo saw a slew of people lying down for exceeding their time. However, he was not deterred and quickly stepped over them. While searching, Kang-hoo thought, "It should be around here." Outside, Gowon really stood there counting. 54, 53. Fortunately, Kang-hoo found what he needed, thinking, "I knew it." As the counting continued, Kang-hoo quickly drew something with blood. 50, 49. Kang-hoo's time was continuously running out. 40, 39. Inside, Kang-hoo managed to draw a protective formation. 18, 14, 13. Afterward, Kang-hoo muttered with complex eyes, "I know you're watching me." He understood everything perfectly, thinking, "I know you're going crazy because of the tragedies, hardships, and depression." Outside, the guy was gradually losing patience, saying, "You have 10 seconds left, you bastard. Stop dragging it. Pull your pants up." Kang-hoo said, "Aren't you curious why someone as low-level as me was able to summon you? If I stay here any longer, it will be just like in the novel." At this moment, those memories still ran through his mind, and the thought came, "He will appear." The more he thought about it, the more terrifying it became. If I hesitate for just one more day, the hope the world is seeking will be even further out of reach. You would say that to convince me. At this moment, his eyes were filled with resentment as he said, "Respond to my summons, for I will become the entertainment you desire." At this time, his voice became enthusiastic, and he declared, "The one who can use your power most effectively is me." Finally, Kang-hoo spoke with intensity, saying, "I know you will appear." At that time, the main constellation had established a contract with Shin Kang-hoo in the novel. At that moment, Kang-hoo continued to loudly call out, "The space thief!"
Deep down, he clearly knew what kind of arrogant bastard it was, because he said, "Because you've caught my attention, I will lend you my power for a while."
It seemed Kang-hoo was certain that person would appear. "Show your worth," he anticipated eagerly as a system panel appeared shortly after. Outside, Gowon couldn't hold back any longer and slammed into the door. He lost his patience and shouted, "Are you messing with me?" Gowon quickly stepped inside to search. As soon as he saw him, Gowon's eyes widened with fury. In the hazy smoke, Kang-hoo moved incredibly quickly, his gaze continuously tracking them, his face showing clear surprise. Before Gowon could react, Kang-hoo launched a series of moves. At first, all skills would maintain the highest level of proficiency: short distance leap, level 1 to level max, and traverse teleportation, level max. But just as he realized what was happening and prepared to counter, Kang-hoo was nowhere to be seen. Giwon gritted his teeth, his eyes darting around in search of Kang-hoo. However, all that lay before him was an expanse of silence. Just as he muttered in confusion, Kang-hoo appeared from behind, realizing he wasn't actually there. Kang-hoo clenched the iron rod tightly and thrust it forward at the man. Gowon immediately spat blood due to the unexpected attack. He could only grit his teeth in hatred, muttering, "Bastard." As he tightened his grip, Kang-hoo asked coldly, "Why?" Finally, Kang-hoo forcefully pulled the iron rod out, causing the man's blood to gush. Then he took the opportunity to deliver a strong kick to Gowon's back as he fell. After dealing with Gowon, Kang-hoo spoke with immense satisfaction. "Thanks, idiot." Wiping the blood from his chin, he spoke coldly, "Thanks to you, I've resolved to leave this place today." Kang-hoo himself felt a sense of amazement. This is fascinating. The contract is complete. After a while, he was finally able to regain his normal breathing. Kang Hu felt a sense of relief, thinking, with this, I've avenged you. He quickly stored the sword in his side pouch as a system notification sounded, announcing that a weapon had been registered. This made Kang Hu's resolve even firmer, thinking, from now on, I'll never look back. On that night of the full moon, a massacre occurred here. Thus, Kang Hu quickly dealt with everyone in this place that very night. The floor was drenched with kerosene that he had poured all over. Whenever Kang Hu found a canister, he poured it all out. However, Kang Hu never acted recklessly, but always with a plan in mind. There were many steps needed to escape this place, the first being obtaining a prison guard's uniform. After spreading kerosene everywhere, he took out a lighter. Kang Hu's eyes were full of complexity as he next planned to set fire to cause chaos. Without hesitation, he dropped the lighter, causing the fire to blaze up. Then, he calmly walked away from the inferno behind him, with the final goal of escaping while trying to avoid detection. At that moment, those working nearby arrived on the scene, exclaiming about the fire in front of Building 18. The scene threw everyone into a panic, with cries to call the fire department to put out the flames. Footsteps echoed urgently throughout the building. Amidst the chaos, someone shouted for everyone to follow the fire brigade's instructions and send people to check on the condition of the detention camp. Not long after, the vehicle doors slammed shut as everyone settled inside. He quickly seated himself in the passenger seat and urged, quickly, let's go. Jin immediately started the engine and responded, all set. At that moment, he suddenly noticed someone. That prison guard over there? Jin directed his voice towards Kangoo and asked, so, you have some work outside the area today? Did you swap duties with someone? At this point, he answered with complete calmness. It's true, I have some work. Someone escaped from Building 18 today. These words startled him immediately. What? Kang-Hu also added. He escaped north and then headed northwest through the temporary detention area. This is just what we've investigated so far. At this time, Kang-Hu quietly remarked, shouldn't we be setting off? He immediately started the engine at high speed and said, all right, let's go right away. They had no idea that Kang-Hu himself was the one who set the fire and was attempting to escape. He quickly calculated that the route to the northwest would lead to Mount Chungmyeong. This seemed like a great escape route for anyone unfamiliar with it because it had many dark corners and a complex path with few guards, but it also presented challenges. In particular, there were many traps laid out during an eclipse, making it quite a dangerous path. But now he felt extremely confident because he already had prior information, which only prison staff knew. He planned to use this knowledge to escape from here. At this moment, he continued his performance flawlessly. It seems like he fled along this path, but it appears that we haven't found any traces yet. He ran towards Mount Chungmyeong. It will be harder to search there. If we can't catch him, we'll need to retrieve his body. Hearing this, Jin quickly accelerated the vehicle. I got it. Soon after, they moved to the entrance gate, Hworong, cigarettes. After inspecting, he quickly signaled to pass through. Now Kang-Hu's gaze became sharper, finally. Looking at the scene ahead, he felt very satisfied. He had moved past the prison's perimeter fence. At this point, the vehicle had moved onto the only straight road here. While driving, Jin spoke up. You must be quite tired tonight with so much happening, and now having to chase that escapee from Building 18. Meanwhile, he tried to wipe the blood from his collar, saying, yes, those bastards are quite stubborn. It seems better to kill them than to have to chase them like this. Hearing this, he nodded in agreement. Yes, they are stupid bastards with nothing but a hollow title of hunters. They accomplish nothing. This made Dwon feel extremely uncomfortable. Indeed, these people really do discriminate against prisoners, treating them as if they are nothing. At this point, he couldn't help but ask out of curiosity. So, Warden, have you been working in Building 18 for long? He pondered for a moment. Then Kang-Hu admitted, I just started working there yesterday. Hearing this, he immediately realized, so you must be working in Unit 9 in Building 18, right? Upon hearing this, his skepticism became apparent. Unit 9? Instead of being scared, Kang-Hu smirked confidently, right? As he drew his sword, he raised his voice. This is my job. In the next moment, he charged straight at the wheel and slashed several times. There was no restraint in Kang-Hu's voice. It was simple. After finishing off one of them with his sword, Kang-Hu finally revealed, it's to eliminate all you bastards. At this moment, the vehicle lost balance and skidded violently across the road. Kang-Hu decided to finish off the person who first exposed him. He even shoved the man out of the window without any mercy. By this time, Dwon was completely out and lay flattened on the ground with a large pool of blood. Seeing this, Jin immediately prepared to use magic to eliminate him. Bastard! But Kang-Hu was still able to easily evade the attack. Instead, the attack incinerated the vehicle's roof completely in an instant. At this moment, it seemed like he was the one with the upper hand. But Jin didn't stop and continued to attack. You dared to deceive us? Immediately, this attack caused a large explosion from the vehicle. Everything before his eyes was charred with nothing left.
Jin showed great satisfaction. That one's definitely dead now.
But at that moment, his eyes briefly froze when he realized something. Looking through the rearview mirror, Jin noticed Kang Hu had managed to jump out just in time. But in a blink of an eye, he used a teleportation technique.
Before he could even react, Jin saw a sharp sword flying toward him.
It quickly pierced through his body with incredible speed. The force was so strong that the sword shattered the car window. Now, Jin could only open his eyes wide and tremble silently.
Right after that, he decisively pulled the sword out of Jin's body.
Finally, he threw Jin out of the car along with the previous person. But at this moment, Kang Hu felt a sharp pain surge through his mind. He could only clutch his forehead in pain, thinking, "This isn't good. I've used too much mana, and now I'm feeling dizzy." Just then, he paused briefly upon hearing some noise outside. In the distance was an agent vehicle with the familiar blue and red lights. But this only sharpened Kang Hu's senses. Patrol officers on this road too? I didn't anticipate this. It's quite a problem. Therefore, he decided to abandon the car and jump down. It was just the right distance for him to land easily. Yet, Kang Hu kept his balance to avoid falling off course.
Right after that, he jumped onto the ground below the road.
Suddenly, a voice rang out, startling him. "I didn't think you'd be able to take down 2 guards and escape like this." Besides Kang Hu, there was someone else here. Biam stepped forward and taunted, "You lowly bastard." At this moment, he quickly realized something, a red mark on his forehead indicating he was a hunter with a celestial contract.
Kang Hu's eyes were filled with scrutiny and caution. He didn't know what power he had. Soon, a panel of information appeared revealing his skills: proficient connection, neutral constellation, ability to track others' mana traces.
Kang Hu quickly placed his hand on the ground, tracking the mana traces of others, and thought, "Ah, that's why he found me so quickly." Meanwhile, he smirked with amusement, thinking, "That's interesting." Suddenly, Kang Hu froze, realizing something. What? At this point, his eyes sharpened, thinking, "I can see the constellation contracted with this person." Even he couldn't understand it himself. There must be a red mark above, and for some reason, he was now able to do it. At this moment, the system announced, "Third, by defeating other predators, you can seize the victim's contracted constellation." On the other side, Biom seemed unaware of his impending fate. As soon as the system's voice echoed, it announced, "You can seize the power of this constellation." Kang Hu immediately sprang into action, thinking, "This is my first time using Star Seizure." However, Kang Hu realized one drawback. Biom's level must be at 100 due to his constellation contract. Therefore, he needed to be cautious and couldn't confront him directly. After calculating carefully, Kang Hu immediately stood up and thought, "So then." He quickly ran to the other side, thinking, "I will use my knowledge of the terrain and experience to sneak up on him and defeat him." This only made Biom look down on him even more, dismissing Kang Hu as a lowly fool. As soon as Biom saw Kang Hu jump into the nearby bushes, he felt incredibly smug, thinking, "Go on, hide. I'll find you in no time." Then Biom immediately activated his contract ability. With a single attempt, Biom could observe the entire area. With the constellation contract, he could see everything. Thus, Biom's steps remained very relaxed. For Biom, this was nothing more than child's play. As he wondered, where did he hide? His eyes missed no corner. At this moment, Biom suddenly glanced behind him upon sensing something. His ability informed him that the opponent was hiding behind a tree ahead. Now, Biom's smile grew even more smug as he thought, "All right, I've found him." In the next moment, he threw his axe fiercely at the tree, cursing, "You bastard." The tree was split in half with just one strike. But the target he was searching for was nowhere to be found. While Biom was still bewildered, wondering, where did he escape to? A sharp sword was suddenly pointed directly at him. With his speed, Kang Hu was able to easily turn the tables. Not only that, Kang Hu exposed him, saying, "Indeed, you've been too overconfident with that tracking ability." Kang Hu's following words made Biom tremble even more, as he said, "Now you'll face the consequences for that." In the next second, Kang Hu swiftly slashed across, declaring, "For daring to underestimate your opponent." It didn't take him long to defeat such an arrogant enemy. At that moment, the system announced, "You have defeated the target and acquired the Master Connection abilities." Reading the announcement, Kang Hu panted. The Master Connection will now be owned by the Space Thief, and this contract cannot be lost. After a while, he comprehended everything. All the Master Connection skills had been successfully learned. While wiping blood and sweat from his face, he checked everything. Then, Kang Hu pressed a button at the very bottom. Traverse teleportation level max, mana tracking level max, night vision, level max. Now, Kang Hu could finally breathe a sigh of relief, thinking, "I've done it." Immediately afterward, he tried using the newly acquired skills. This made Kang Hu extremely satisfied, thinking, "With this ability, it seems no hunters are pursuing me here anymore." At this moment, a sudden dizziness overtook him. Kang Hu completely collapsed, his whole body trembling uncontrollably. He even vomited large amounts of blood. At this point, Kang Hu realized something. Damn it, I've overexerted myself in this battle. Returning to his battle with Biome, Kang Hu had lowered his mana circulation to the bare minimum to conceal his presence while being tracked by Biome. Kang Hu had reduced his mana flow to the smallest degree. At this moment, he realized he was carrying mana stones. Then he transferred all that mana into the mana absorption stone. He understood this was necessary, thinking, if I let my mana circulate normally, the surrounding mana would fluctuate, and he would detect me. Therefore, concealing mana circulation and transferring it into the mana absorption stone was essential. Finally, after concealing his aura, Kang Hu threw the mana stone elsewhere. And when that stone lodged into a nearby tree trunk, Biam was truly deceived into throwing his axe at it. That bastard, while Kang Hu hid perfectly. Biam only sensed the strongest mana fluctuations around here, so he was fooled. Immediately after, Kang Hu seized the opportunity to act, which allowed him to take Biom down. However, to get close and finish Biom off, Kang Hu had to use a short jump technique to approach. Returning to the present, Kang Hu was enduring intense pain. After a sequence of such actions, his new body was not yet accustomed, leading to such exhaustion. Quickly, Kang Hu stood up. If he continued to fight forcefully, he might actually die here. No joke. Now that things were stable, he needed to find a safe place. Though his steps were still unsteady, Kang Hu tried to move as quickly as possible. At that moment, he saw what he needed. There it was. Upon sight, Kang Hu recognized it, a sand truck that could help hide his aura. Having thought it through, Kang Hu immediately retreated quickly backward to gain momentum. Then he used all his remaining strength to jump down onto the truck on the road below. Finally, Kang Hu was safe atop the sand. Now he could lie down and relax a bit. At this moment, Kang Hu also remembered silently that in just one day, he killed 3 guards consecutively while on the run, something that was not in the original novel he wrote. He continued to wonder whether the future would change, but regardless, he knew he needed to become stronger. He would achieve that through the knowledge he had from writing the novel. Kang Hu thought, even so, Kang Hu had resolved himself, but with this weak body, even knowing so much, I need to put in more effort to change that damned future where I have to die in resentment at the novel's end. It seemed life had shown some mercy by not giving him any further obstacles. This allowed Kang Hu to sit quietly and conserve his strength without thinking. He looked up at the sky and sincerely marveled at how beautiful and peaceful this place was. Meanwhile, at the headquarters, an announcement echoed, ordering the capture of low-ranking scumbags specializing in mana stone extraction. The task was assured to be easy. Upon hearing this, the person quickly replied, "Got it," and left, understanding the instructions clearly. When Dong Hyun was alone, he smirked slightly and remarked, "He's quite smart, huh?" This was a series of actions that left him in awe, knowing how to perform multiple consecutive actions to cause confusion before escaping the prison camp in a transport vehicle. At that moment, Kang Hu felt a wave of dizziness run through his body. This wasn't good. He tried to muster the last of his strength to make a call, thinking, I have used up too much mana, and now I can't move. This amount of mana can't be recovered quickly. Meanwhile, Dong Hyun was asking, still can't find that level 10 assassin? He took down 2 guards, level 45 and 55, and a hunter with a constellation contract? On Kang Hu's side, the other end of the line answered, "Hello?" Kang Hu immediately said, "This is Kang Hu." The voice on the other end expressed clear surprise. Kang Hu? Kang Hu got straight to the point. I'm right in front of the Daejeon bus station. Now, he had to lean entirely against the phone booth, his voice full of exhaustion. Can I ask you for a favor? Dong Haiyun displayed clear excitement. Oh, that's really interesting. This will make the hunt much more thrilling. Kang Hu's warm voice resonated as he said, Thank you, Han Seoyeon, for bandaging me like this. This surprised her so much that she exclaimed, What? Seoyeon felt confused and asked, Did you go to the mana mining site? Those people only force hunters to work there. As he spoke, he thought to himself, Even so, I still trust Han Seoyeon and contacted her. Because she still loves Shin Kanggu, she suddenly held her face tightly and said, I'm sorry. She wiped her tears and self-blame and said, If I had been with you more often after that incident, you wouldn't have had to go there. Kang Hu was still contemplating. When we parted, she was still a newly awakened hunter. Now, she is level 150 and has contracted with a constellation. Kang Hu helplessly placed his hand on his forehead, thinking, if she had still been with me then, she would have been drawn into the Chungmyeong detention center. A moment later, he suddenly stood up and said, You've done enough. Involving yourself with me now won't do any good. Thin Hook will notice you. Seoyeon hurriedly explained, I'm level 1 now. I'm not someone who'd lose to an average hunter. But Kang Hu insisted, You don't need to worry about me. He then smiled gently and said, You just need to use that power to protect yourself well. A moment later, Seoyeon handed over a neatly folded shirt and said, "Here, it's yours. I've put some money and a phone inside. It won't be traceable." He candidly remarked, "It seems your guild isn't simple, huh?" He suddenly recalled their parting and reaffirmed to himself, "Yes, back then and even now, a guild like that always suited you." She hesitantly spoke, "Hey, do you want to join our guild? Like before, we could—" Before she could finish, Kang-hoo interrupted, "Seoyeon." He waved his hand with a cold voice and said, "Don't get stuck in the past." His decisiveness came so unexpectedly that it left Seoyeon stunned. Unable to hold back her tears, she lowered her face. Seoyeon gave a helpless smile, thinking, "Yes, that's what I thought." Her tone became more resolute as she said, "I will follow your advice. I have a friend who's a guild leader. The information is on the phone." Seoyeon no longer cried. Instead, she gave a sincere smile and said, "Take care, live well." Kang-hoo nodded in response. "Thank you. You take care too." A while later, he left the room. "Driver, take me to Daejeon Station," he said. The driver cheerfully asked, "Do you mind if I turn on the radio?" Kang-hoo briefly replied, "Go ahead." As soon as it was turned on, the sound came through. "Breaking news. The Junghwa Guild has attacked the White Rose Mercenary Corporation. After Judgment Day, based in the White Rose headquarters at Jeongseon Protectorate, criminal organizations are rapidly increasing in Gangwon Province. Judgment Day has arrived unexpectedly and quietly." A man is intently driving the car when he comments, "Today feels strange, doesn't it? It's the weekend, but there aren't many cars." Receiving no response from his wife, he turns around, "Right, honey?" However, his wife had slowly turned into a skeleton. The man panicked and screamed, "Honey, what the hell?" A second later, a skeleton monster appeared, swinging a scythe at his neck. Outside, not just one, but many skeletons were attacking everywhere. Reporters appeared shortly after. This is the rooftop of a building in Gangnam, Seoul. As you can see, the sky has turned purple. According to a report, this area has— Before finishing the sentence, the reporter was swallowed by a monster. The entire large street was plunged into fear as monsters suddenly appeared, and dungeons materialized everywhere. In the chaotic situation, everyone had to hide from the monsters. There were people who gained powers known as hunters, who rushed out to fight without caring about the danger. However, many inexplicable events have occurred, leading people to lose faith in God. Hunters who used to hunt monsters began to hunt other players instead, just when everyone thought the apocalypse was upon them. A girl was desperately trying to escape from the hunters. When she reached the end of the road, she couldn't take it anymore and gasped for breath. Helpless, the girl pleaded, "Please, don't." However, they mockingly responded, "Someone might think I'm bullying you, don't worry." One of them menacingly swung his sword, saying, "It'll only hurt for a moment." At that moment, a strong hand stopped the sword entirely, saving the girl. A gentle voice asked, "Are you okay?" It was Jang Shiwan, the savior of the world, who had appeared. Starting from Seoul, he had begun to make a difference. He helped, protected, and healed others. The Junghwa Guild. Reflecting on this, Kang-hoo concluded, "That's why everyone wants to go to Seoul." The radio was still broadcasting, reporting that the White Rose Corporation was confirmed by Hunter Jang Shiwan to be behind the terrorist attack at Gangnam Station, Seoul. He silently smiled, knowing White Rose isn't a terrorist organization. Hearing that news, the driver exclaimed, "Wipe out all the terrorist organizations, just as expected from Jang Shiwan." The driver wondered, isn't he the best hunter in Korea? Meanwhile, Kang-hoo thought, of course, the terrorist attack wasn't their doing, it was all Jang Shiwan's act. The driver enthusiastically shared, "My son just awoke, and his dream is to join Jang Shiwan's guild." Kang-hoo thought, if I plan to oppose Jang Shiwan by exposing his actions, he'll turn me into a criminal. At that point, everyone would call for his downfall, shouting, "Kill him!" Kang-hoo sighed, looking at his phone, and thought, the outcome is as clear as day. That's why I've been hoping to join the Mercenary Corporation, because all the other guilds are under his control. A moment later, the driver said, "We've arrived." He looked at the space in front of him calmly and thought, becoming a collaborator with the Mercenary Corporation suits me best now. At that moment, someone said, "Hello, I heard about you from Seoyeon." She slowly introduced herself, "My name is Lee Yiren." Kang-hoo heightened his alertness, knowing it wasn't the time yet to reveal his identity, and replied, "My name is Jung Sung-kyu." The two shook hands, and Yiren smiled, saying, "It's nice to meet you." A second later, she turned around to search for documents and said, "I have a good job for you." Kang-hoo said candidly, "Forget it, I want something with a better reward. You can give me something more challenging as well." Yiren couldn't help but be surprised and said, "What? But I just heard you're level 10. Upon hearing that, she suddenly broke into a smile. Yiren couldn't help but laugh out loud. She tried to hold back her laughter and said, "You're really funny, you know. People often say being too brave is reckless." However, a second later, Yiren glared with a cold voice. "Do you want me to go clean up dead bodies?" Kang Hu responded without hesitation. Aren't mercenaries more dependent on skills than level? Kang Hu's confident smile remained as he faced a character he had spent much effort creating. It felt strange. Yurin is the observer of the neutral chaos constellation, a constellation with the ability to distort and obstruct opponents' views. Li Yiren is a mage with additional support skills who has signed a contract with a mid-level constellation. She is also a character he created to face the 13 stars. Knowing this information, Kang Hu suddenly resolved, I must earn her trust. Kang Hu straightforwardly questioned, you only need someone with high skills, not focused on level, right? Isn't that the objective of the mercenary guild? Yurin closed her eyes, shook her head, and walked past, saying, Sunkyu, reality and ambition are very different. As she passed by, Kang Hu firmly said, prejudice and truth are very different too. His words made her smile suddenly. Yurin turned back enthusiastically, saying, all right then, let's see how far your skills go. The two of them stood facing each other, maintaining a certain distance. As she gathered her energy, Yurin reminded him, I will only evaluate one thing, and that evaluation will be based on whether you can dodge my skill or not. Her power now surged fiercely. Kang Hu wondered, so you just want to see if I can defend myself or not? Yurin responded, exactly. Being able to dodge means you can create an opportunity to attack. Facing Yurin's unusual power, Kang Hu had to squint and observe. The mist gradually appeared, and Kang Hu thought, it's used to create puppets and can track my location even from afar, a fog hunter. He carefully considered, this is not an offensive skill, so even if I get hit, I won't die. But if I can't dodge, it will leave a trace, and then the test will end immediately. A few seconds later, Kang Hu shouted loudly, let's start. Yeren exclaimed excitedly, I am starting now. As soon as she finished speaking, she applied a strong force, commanding the mist to leap forward. It approached Kang Hu at a dizzying speed. However, under his eyes, the mist was only a minor issue. In an instant, it attacked, leaving only a faint silhouette. When the dense mist gradually disappeared, Yirin felt strange not seeing him anywhere. She was startled and quickly looked back, saying, no. Kang Hu unexpectedly appeared above. Yirin was astonished, thinking, how can it be? At that level, even jumping 1 meter is difficult, but he... While observing him, she wondered, it seems he's very proficient in using basic assassin skills, short jumps. Suddenly, Yeren smiled meaningfully, saying, so you do have quite good skills. She continued to move her hands and launched an attack, asking, can you dodge this one too? This attack launched with incredible power. The mist charged with a colder demeanor than before. In the blink of an eye, it matched Kang Hu's speed. He continued to climb higher, but the mist kept closely trailing him. It seemed to be just an arm's length away. At this moment, Kang Hu suddenly turned to observe. He displayed a very sly smile. The mist concentrated its attack, but Kang Hu skillfully avoided it. Yeren below tried to observe the entire development, but she only saw an explosion of fog. She braced herself against the violent aftershock. A second later, Yeren was completely stunned, thinking, he dodged again, not to mention, her pupils began to constrict in astonishment as she thought, just now, that was. She wondered. Teleportation? Just then, Kang Hu's figure appeared right behind her. In the blink of an eye, his sword was at Yiren's neck. Kang Hu calmly spoke, let's end the test here. Looking at the sharp blade under her neck, Yiren could only offer a foolish smile. He silently noted, she's faster than I thought. No wonder she's the commander of the mercenary team. She slowly sidestepped and asked, have you ever been trained? Kang Hu unhesitatingly and truthfully replied, no. Yiren gently pushed her sword away and said, it's a lie. Someone at level 10 couldn't possibly make those movements. He asked again, so did I pass the test? She leisurely replied, yes, I think I could entrust you if you were at level 50. Hearing this, Kang Hu felt at ease and sheathed his sword, saying, good. A while later, the two of them got into a car to move to another location. Noticing he seemed pensive, Yeren glanced at him. She spoke up, are you interested in bulletproof glass? Lately, a shooter has been bothering me constantly, so the car is fully equipped with bulletproof glass. Kang Hu wondered, a shooter? Yiren admitted with amusement, yes, I'm quite adored by some pesky star bastards, while Kang Hu thought, a turf war. Then she summoned her mist fairy and brought out a piece of paper, saying, this is a task delegation document for tracking a wanted criminal. Kang Hu was the delegate. She said, this authorization document will be very useful to you, then handed the paper to Kang Hu. Gyeonggi-do Osun, a dungeon opens in an abandoned ruin. Kim Mukhyun, level 50 mage. The task is to retrieve Vartaros's level 3 item, the shoes. After reading the information, he asked, do I need to bring him back alive? Yeren maintained a calm smile. You can kill him. Too many innocent people have died at Kim Mukyun's hands already.
You can execute him on the spot. Even the National Hunter Security Agency would be pleased.
Hearing this, he grew even more intrigued. Understood, I'll begin immediately. Soon enough, Kang Hu arrived at the abandoned ruins. Previously, Yiren had advised, he'll probably be hiding somewhere, which won't make it easy, as this place is quite vast. This area is filled with dozens of large abandoned buildings. Kang Hu smiled confidently. But for me, this isn't a bad place to start the hunt. Shin Kang Hu used it as a hideout in the novel, so I'm pretty familiar with it. There are also some handy mid-level bosses here. Behind him, goblin rabbits began to emerge. Kang Hu glanced around, observing, there they are. He decisively cut a line across his palm with a knife. Fresh blood quickly dripped down. Upon seeing the blood, the goblin rabbit's eyes immediately lit up. They soon revealed their true form, with sharp claws. They frantically rushed towards the spot where Kang Hu was standing. He instantly activated the teleportation skill. Following that, he made a quick short jump and easily defeated the goblin rabbits. He effortlessly reused the teleportation technique. In just the blink of an eye, Kang Hu had defeated the second rabbit. His expression and eyes became more serious than ever. The short jump technique allowed him to effortlessly take down the final rabbit. It seemed that these rabbits weren't enough to make Kang Hu's facial expression change. In just a few fleeting seconds, he had taken down 3 rabbit monsters. Yiren smiled with satisfaction, retrieving the commissioned item. Once you're done, you can do whatever you want. At that moment, Ventus, a mid-level monster, appeared right behind Kang Hu. Yiren calmly asked, "What reward would you like?" He briefly replied, "All I need is a license to raid the dungeon, a display system, and secondly, to steal the boss's skills." Kang Hu's voice echoed in the opponent's ear, in areas with numerous mid to high-level bosses. A hint of amusement appeared at the corner of Kang Hu's mouth. He thought, this is the best place for me to acquire their skills. Kang Hu smiled and said, "Nice to meet you, Ventus." A notification board floated above Ventus's head, and he declared through gritted teeth, "I will kill you." He listened and found it amusing, saying, "Don't just stand there babbling." Suddenly, Ventus jumped up high into the air. Ventus charged quickly towards Kang Hu with eyes blazing. At this point, the distance between them was very close. Ventus's speed was so fast that his image appeared from one place to another. Kang Hu furrowed his brow with concern. He also braced himself to defend as Ventus rushed toward him. Ventus swung his sword toward Kang Hu. Ventus gripped his sword tightly, his eyes burning with intense murderous intent. He thrust his sword straight toward Kang Hu. Kang Hu quickly used his teleportation skill to dodge the attack. He thought it seemed like that attack was just a simple feigned move. Kang Hu turned to another direction, but the real attack came from here instead. He used a short jump move to deliver a critical blow to Ventus. Ventus's blood splattered everywhere. Ventus tried to swing his sword to counterattack. Kang Hu teleported again to dodge it easily. Ventus was just a mid-tier boss in name only. Kang Hu assessed him. His straightforward combat style hasn't developed yet. Kang Hu then forcefully kicked the back of Ventus's calf. In agony, Ventus collapsed to the ground. Kang Hu quickly summoned a sword. A notification appeared, informing that Kang Hu was now armed, aiming the sword directly at the back of Ventus's head. The blade swiftly descended upon the target. A slicing sound echoed, and blood gushed from Ventus's shoulder like a waterfall. Ventus's eyes widened in excruciating pain. Kang Hu pressed the sword deeper into his wound. He raised the sword back up, officially sending Ventus to his grave. Ventus quickly disintegrated. The final notification displayed, "You have stolen the illusion skill from the target." Seeing the result, Kang Hu laughed with satisfaction. Suddenly, something shiny fell right behind him. Kang Hu curiously turned his head to look. From the building behind, something reflected light back. They looked at what fell behind Kang Hu, exclaiming that it was a tranquilizer. Not just one, but 2. Shik excitedly pointed in that direction, saying, "Did you see that, boss? Isn't it pretty rare that this happened?" Zhou Youngjae, a level 3 from Osan, was still in shock, saying, "Who would have known he hit Ventus's weak spots so precisely?" Jessica recalled, "Boss, I saw him in the market." She remembered Kang Hu shopping and saying, "Give me Severo breast, kobold blood, and monster tranquilizer." The seller continued to advertise, "Buy a dagger at my stall too." As she thought then, it seemed Kang Hu was planning to hunt monsters in the dungeon and do some farming. Young Jae listened, feeling a bit confused, and asked, "A tranquilizer?" Shik evaluated. "That guy seems pretty skilled at assassination. I've never seen him before." Young Jae thought, "At that level, he shouldn't even be here." Jessica chimed in with flattery, "But he's still no match for you, big brother." She burst out laughing and planned, "Should we bring him here? If it were you, you'd easily make him kneel." But Young Jae dismissively waved the idea away. "No need." Then he laughed wickedly. It'll be easier if we let him act, and later we'll take him down easily. Jessica exclaimed in admiration. That's the way, boss. We just need to tail him and wait for him to tire himself out. Meanwhile, Kang Hu was still checking his system. You are at level 16. The next basic skill is at level 20, he recalled. I've allocated all my points to resilience. Kang Hu calculated meticulously, thinking, as long as I can manage my innate mana sensitivity issue, I won't need to allocate points to mana anymore. For now, I'll put everything into endurance to get through this tough phase. After finishing, he sighed in relief, thinking, finally, I feel a bit more alive. Kang Hu looked at the tranquilizer in his hand. It is used for soothing, pain relief, and suppressing mana sensitivity. This tranquilizer is hard to find in regular dungeons, and because it grows naturally, it's very difficult to mass produce. However, there's only one person in this country who knows how to cultivate it, and that person is in the Zero Zone. Kang Hu thought, in the past it was called the DMZ, and it's quite far away. I will have to prepare and buy as much as I can. But he had a concern, thinking, but I'm worried. If his sensitivity flares up during combat, Kang Hu would then be overwhelmed by his opponent.
Kang Hu will die immediately.
He continued walking in contemplation, thinking about how much money he would need to accomplish that. At that moment, outside on the street, a car was moving with Yirin inside, driving while complaining about how call quality had gotten worse since last year. They are interfering with it, so we can't do anything, especially since you're affected by the Solar Guild and the Black Lion, which will make things even worse. Yirin agreed. It could be true. The person on the other end of the line worriedly asked, you seem to have difficulties now that you've gotten involved with those people from the Solar Guild. But Yirin wasn't concerned in the least. No problem. She responded, I'm used to people keeping an eye on me. This has been happening for a long time. The person on the other end inquired, could you suggest a hunter for me? Suddenly, Yirin's car crashed into a trash can. Everything scattered everywhere, yet the person on the other end was still talking. There's a lack of manpower these days. Yirin smiled with satisfaction. The person continued, that's why I had to contact you. Yirin replied, I don't know. The scene shifted to the person on the other end of the line with her. Shiwan smiled as he listened to Yirin, wondering if he could suggest a hunter that would please him, Zhang Shiwan. Yirin continued, I thought you would eliminate all of them from the beginning. Hearing that, Shiwan decided, then I'll just change the standards a bit. He revealed, I want to train the lower-ranked individuals properly first. Yirin recounted, there is such a hunter. Shiwan burst out laughing. Really? She continued, but I think he needs a little more time. I don't want to rush to conclusions too soon. Shiwan replied in a low voice, you have never recommended the wrong person, Ms. Yirin. His voice was full of regret. It's just because of some unfortunate incidents that we've lost them. Yirin sighed. It's all in the past, so you don't need to worry. I will observe him a little longer, and if he meets the standards, I'll let you know. She remembered something and asked, by the way, do you have any useful information? Shiwan revealed, I happen to obtain some insider information on a few criminal organizations. He suggested, I'll send it to you via a secure email address soon. Yirin felt very satisfied upon hearing this. I hate to keep saying it, but I must thank you. Shiwan chuckled. It's nothing. Whenever you need this kind of information, I can always help you. He looked inside the area and said, our Zhenghua Guild really needs talented individuals. It turns out that Shiwan had captured Shin. He continued, if you send someone capable. He laughed wickedly and said, then I will treat you as well as I possibly can. After hanging up, Yirin sighed. Oh my.
She spoke to herself. No matter how high my expectations are, why would I even think about someone who just took on their first task like him?
At the same time, Kang Hu was diligently fighting to complete his mission. His sword plunged straight into the enemy. Kang Hu quickly leapt backward as the enemy fell back in pain. This time, the monster was the mid-level boss, Ibria. He jumped back after attacking it. Ibria angrily raised its hand to counterattack. Kang Hu's face showed no change as he looked at it. Ibria's claws quickly lunged toward him. It used the technique of seizing, its massive hand grasping for Kang Hu. Ibria immediately marked him as the target of its attack. One of its claws pierced through Kang Hu, but it was just an illusion. Ibria was extremely surprised, not expecting this at all. Suddenly, a large rock appeared right behind it. Kang Hu had used illusion magic to deceive Ibria, exploiting the weakness in its seizing technique. He calculated silently in his mind, that was a sequence of actions that left a huge gap, and I'll take advantage of that gap. The large rock seemed to be chasing Ibria. The rock suddenly became enormous, as if it wanted to crush it entirely. Kang Hu immediately stopped. He lost his balance and fell to the ground. Many large rocks fell from above like rain. Only Kang Hu's hand could be seen peeking out from the rubble. It turned out to be just an illusion magic trick. Ibria was terrified by this scene. Kang Hu immediately used teleportation to stand right behind it. He quickly summoned the sword. Kang Hu swiftly thrust a decisive blow straight into Ibria. Its blood sprayed out like a waterfall. He withdrew the sword, officially sending Ibria to the afterlife. A notification appeared, announcing that he had defeated a mid-level boss and leveled up. Kang Hu thought, I'll allocate all my points into endurance again, and I need to save up some Selasium as well. The system displayed that it was acquiring the target's skill, capturing the skill proficiency level, and that he could summon a target within a fixed radius in front of him. Kang Hu finished reading and paused to think. He then acquired Ibria's capturing skill. He quickly set his target on the nearby dagger. Kang Hu swiftly grabbed the dagger using his new skill. Seeing the dagger automatically fly into his hand, he realized this could be used for items too. Kang Hu softly said, "And if I use it well?" He concluded that it could hinder actions. So Kang Hu immediately started practicing his new skill. Someone was secretly watching him from afar, unable to suppress a gasp. Shik exclaimed, "Look at him! He's really got guts, an assassin." Young Jae was also surprised. Did he really manage to kill Ibria without a tank? Jessica wondered as she watched Kang Hu swinging his sword repeatedly. But what is he doing? Shik speculated. I don't know. Is he trying to increase his skill proficiency? He turned to young Jae and suggested, Boss, should we go beat up that bastard? Seeing there was no response, Shik called out again, Boss! Young Jae was startled and cursed. Shut up! I said we should wait until he's tired, then it's better to target him. Shik, startled, quickly replied, Understood. The scene then shifts to another location. Mukyun was tearing into a piece of meat he held. While eating, he was attentively reading something. The content on the paper indicated that the Black Lion had agreed to let Kim Mukyun join the organization, with some conditions. Just provide insider information about the Lamdong for the mercenary group Lee Yirin manages. Mukyun looked at a pile of corpses before him with enthusiasm and said, This news is good for me. Mukyun surmised, Lee Yirin must be worrying about trying to catch me now. Mukyun stowed the paper in his jacket pocket and thought, I'm aiming for Heaven's Feast, but Black Lion isn't bad. It's been a while since I've set foot in Daejeon. Suddenly, his eyes widened with horror. It turned out that Kang Hu had arrived at Mukyun's location. He looked upward with determination. Seeing this, Mukyun smiled savagely. This is another one I can mug. He tapped his hand on the wall to summon his underlings. Come on, guys. Ferocious wolves appeared as Mukyun announced to them, It's time to eat. The wolves, upon hearing the order, immediately dashed outside. They gained momentum and sprinted swiftly. A black wolf had already rushed in front of Kang Hu, bearing its fierce fangs. Kang Hu calmly summoned a piece of meat while sitting there. The wolf abruptly halted upon seeing the meat. Mukyun was somewhat astonished by this sight. Mukyun saw his wolves devouring Kang Hu's meat, leaving him bewildered. What is this? These creatures never liked eating regular meat before. At the same time, Kang Hu also drew out a sword. He stabbed straight into the head of one wolf, then moved to the second, then the third, continuing in sequence. Mukyun watched everything in disbelief. What the? Kang Hu spoke in a cold voice. It's not by chance that they like this meat. There's a reason for all this. He explained, I specifically prepared this meat to suit their taste. Immediately afterward, the wolves gradually disappeared. Kang Hu glared at Mukyun with fierce eyes and warned, I warn you, if you want to keep your life, you'd better be careful. Mukyun was trembling from the threats but still tried to play tough. This bastard. Mukyun challenged, If you're so good, come here. And Kang Hu casually replied, All right, if you insist. Mukyun tried to respond confidently. Preparation is good, but it seems like you're being a bit reckless. Mukyun thought, how could any idiot just charge straight into an enemy's den? He then activated a preset mine. I'll blow you to hell. Kang Hu's eyes widened immediately. He immediately searched for mana and realized how many bombs were actually placed. Kang Hu then stomped firmly on the ground to get a boost. He utilized short jumps to swiftly move through the construction site's iron bars. Mukyun, seeing this scene, began to panic. Wait, damn it, this bastard? Seeing Kang Hu running up so swiftly made him frightened. Did he really just jump past all the mana traps I set? At this point, he was almost at Mukyun's location. He shouted angrily, Damn you, do you think I'm scared of you?
Kang Hu's eyes were as cold as ice, without a trace of fear.
The status board appeared above Mukyun, showing that the Dark Constellation's chaotic fighter disorients and blinds enemies. He spread his arms to the sky and shouted, Loved by the Dark Constellation. Mukyun charged arrogantly towards Kang Hu. I'll show you the black magic of hell. But Kang Hu continually used teleportation to dodge. Kang Hu then used a short jump to rush at Mukyun. He speculated to himself, short jump. Kang Hu tried to analyze the opponent's abilities, thinking, about level 50, a mage with a supporting constellation that disorients opponents. As he chased Mukyun, he thought, I already know what he's going to do next. Mukyun laughed and mocked. Haha, this time you won't be able to dodge. Mukyun used the skill to soar high into the sky. Even Kang-hoo was a bit surprised by this sight. He told himself, not yet.
Kang-hoo thought to himself, still not yet, wait a moment.
Suddenly, his foot came to an abrupt halt. Kang-hoo immediately raised his sword at that moment. Mukyun clenched his teeth in extreme fear. He asked in horror, how did you know the only way to counter this move? Kang-hoo replied, how could I not know? He smiled broadly and declared, I created it. Mukyun, bewildered, asked, what nonsense are you talking about? Kang-hoo then used a skill to capture him. Mukyun struggled in pain, exclaiming, what kind of monstrous skill is this? He was desperately confused. How can you perform it without preparing any stance? Kang-hoo, feeling a bit sympathetic, revealed, it's not like that. I just simplified the movements.
Right after, the sword pierced straight into Mukyun.
Blood sprayed everywhere as he cried out in pain. Mukyun, using his strength, reached out and activated a blazing magic skill. Kang-hoo's steps faltered. A magical explosion forced him to jump back to dodge. Mukyun furiously charged at him and shouted, I'll burn you to death. Kang-hoo realized he's not only able to shoot fireballs continuously, but can fire them unusually fast too.
Kang-hoo doubted his assumption. Did he use some item to boost his magic?
Kang-hoo quickly leaped out of the building, thinking, if that's the case, then… Mukyun still chased after him, cursing, you little bastard. He unleashed a dark aura and shouted loudly, die! The mystical purple smoke enveloped Kang-hoo. Seeing Kang-hoo falling from a great height, Mukyun laughed with satisfaction. He shouted with glee, how dare a bastard like you? Then, Kang-hoo was seen landing safely. He had used illusion magic to create numerous copies of himself. Mukyun couldn't take it anymore. Dark energy surged uncontrollably. Bastard! He unleashed his heat strike skill, causing an explosion at the spot where Kang-hoo stood. But Kang-hoo quickly escaped from there. Seeing this scene, Mukyun became even more frantic. What kind of nonsense is happening here?
His eyes were wide open with utter fear.
At that moment, Kang-hoo had already stabbed his sword into Mukyun's side, and he could only utter with difficulty, bastard, you. He cried out in despair. You stabbed the same spot twice, you. Mukyun was trembling miserably on the ground. He still managed to curse obstinately, you, how dare you fool me? Kang-hoo responded mockingly, that's my hobby after all. Suddenly there was a strange voice. No matter how skilled you are, you can't avoid that trap. That's a top-notch strategy. He looked around in confusion. What's this? A notification appeared. The Constellation Quick Victory Master heaps praise on your attack strategy. Kang-hoo was very surprised to receive the news, not expecting to be sponsored. Although countless nebulas observe hunters, sponsors are quite rare because sponsoring consumes the power of the nebulas, or in other words, the power of the nebula. Kang-hoo focused on the system screen, noticing that the interstellar robber was being shamefully sponsored by a lowly nebula. The system also sent a message, even degrading the dignity of the contract owner, that is, Kang-hoo. He merely chuckled and said, are you jealous? Don't worry, choosing me was your best decision. Kang-hoo confidently stated, in return, I will do my best. The system reminded him to focus on the main task, urging him to pay attention to the prey in front of him. Kang-hoo then fiercely stabbed Mukyun's calf and said, all right. The man angrily cursed, shouting wildly, you vile bastard, do you think capturing a small fry like me changes anything? Mukyun pointed at Kang-hoo's face and criticized, do you think you'll really accomplish anything? Hearing that, Kang-hoo's gaze suddenly tightened. He involuntarily remembered the past and thought, if capturing a bastard like him could change this world. Kang-hoo raised his sword and said, then I wouldn't need to be here. A brilliant slash struck right in the middle of Mukyun's face. The system announced that Kang-hoo had killed the target and acquired his contract, the Chaotic Warrior. The Chaotic Warrior is now under the control of the interstellar robber and has no way to escape unless the contract is broken. All abilities of the Chaotic Warrior have been transferred to you. Kang-hoo pressed the arrow key down to view the rest of the notification content. Acquiring the Chaos Seeker's sight, Kang-hoo exclaimed, great, I got it, and thought, should I just take his equipment too? He then picked up Mukyun's fur coat, despite not being fond of stripping men's clothes. Kang-hoo began to strip the man completely, intent on taking his outfit. The amount of items he obtained surprised Kang-hoo. The warrior's extensive gear made him think that being level 50 and stingy was misleading when the man actually spent all his money on items.
Kang-hoo put on a glove and thought, I can link this mana chain to the dagger for precise throws.
Next up is the new armor, and also converting this to enhanced durability. Kang-hoo looked at the ring on his hand and thought, this will enhance resilience. It's very important. I can't waste it. Finally, the most important item is here, the Talisman of the Wicked God. It consumes 1 mana per second when in the awakened state, reducing skill cooldown times.
The system screen displays the items. Bartaros' boots, level 9 ring of endurance, level 9 luxurious gloves.
Kang Hu was very satisfied and thought, this buff is optimal for me now. He smiled, calculating, I've already taken his clothes, so I'll sell all these level 9 items. I should make a decent profit. Kang Hu told himself, if I reach level 20, that would be perfect. Excited, he set out to continue his journey, thinking, the assassin's breadwinning skills are right in front of me now. After walking for a while, the empty streets made Kang Hu wonder. Strange, why aren't there any monsters around? He wondered, isn't this place usually crawling with spiky-legged rabbits?
Kang Hu was unaware that at that moment, someone was secretly watching him from a tall building.
They were observing him closely through binoculars.
Jessica excitedly exclaimed, considering attacking him to seize his equipment, while young Jae was hesitant, pondering whether they should or not.
Shik looked up at his two teammates from below. Young Jae just gave a light chuckle. Shik immediately responded, acknowledging the signal, deciding to toy with him first. So, he released a horde of enchanted rabbits. The rabbits immediately took notice of the blood on Kang Hu. They became wild and growled fiercely. He turned to look at the rabbits, preparing himself, and finally acknowledged their arrival. Before long, Kang Hu had sent each rabbit straight to the afterlife. Rabbit blood splattered everywhere, staining the area dark red. A notification sounded, announcing that Kang Hu had leveled up and reached level 20. He was very pleased, thinking, I've been waiting for this notification for a long time. Another notification announced that he had acquired a basic assassin skill, consecutive stabs, which, due to his nebulous abilities, had been upgraded to Bloody Stab. Bloody Stab could continuously interact with the target's bleed stat. Jessica was stunned by this sight, thinking how easily they died. Young Jae smiled back, replying, no, not at all. He walked forward and declared, this is my chance, he's dropping his guard. Young Jae exploited the opening and swung his sword towards Kang Hu. The powerful slash carried the force and darkness with it, but Kang Hu quickly used a short leap to evade. Kang Hu was puzzled about the man in front of him, thinking, who is this bastard? Trying to rob me or something? If I'd reacted any slower, I'd be dead now. Young Jae growled and said, still too weak, huh? He slashed from one boulder to another, declaring, this time, I won't miss. Kang Hu rushed towards him with a knife. Kang Hu used his special move, Bloody Stab, inflicting a critical wound on Young Jae. A notification displayed a limitation of 10 recovery turns. Kang Hu calculated, thinking, I need to use this move a few more times. His eyes glanced quickly backward to observe, only to see Young Jae unharmed, who then taunted, you call that an attack? Two lackeys cheered excitedly. It's useless. Our boss is a berserker. He only gets stronger as the fight progresses. At this moment, Young Jae continued to slash towards Kang Hu. Kang Hu quickly dodged and thought, of course, he has to be strong. He's a berserker. He continued to rush at Young Jae with a knife. Kang Hu delivered another critical strike, but Young Jae's vulnerability was also glaring. Young Jae still remained unscathed and provoked. Use all your strength. Come at me. Kang Hu just smirked and immediately charged at him, thinking, at least I've got 4 more slashes to go on you. Young Jae grew somewhat frantic. Kang Hu's figure flickered in and out of sight. Soon after, Kang Hu was right in front of him. In an instant, Young Jae's vision was taken away. Young Jae was greatly confused due to the hidden activation ability, silently questioning, what is this? Kang Hu capitalized on the opening to deliver numerous stabs to Young Jae. Young Jae furiously swung his sword wildly like a beast losing consciousness, saying, annoying, I don't even notice these cuts. Suddenly, Young Jae glanced at Kang Hu and said, I've seen through you. He laughed savagely, asking, have you finished your tricks yet? Suddenly, some kind of pressure surged throughout Young Jae's body. He was bewildered by what was happening, thinking, what's going on? I can't believe those shallow cuts could sap my strength. Young Jae was breathing heavily like a bull. The two henchmen watching the battle became extremely worried, saying, what's wrong with the boss? It can't be. Could it be he? Young Jae gritted his teeth and hissed, no. He roared fiercely. The more I'm stabbed, the stronger I get. But Young Jae was already caught by Kang Hu's restraint ability. Kang Hu wielded his sword and charged at him. And so Kang Hu delivered a critical blow to Young Jae. His voice coldly murmured, even if you have the berserker class, you're still just human. If you lose too much blood, you will die. Right after that, Young Jae fell and officially passed away. Seeing this, his two thugs immediately ran for their lives, shouting, damn it, run! He's not ordinary at all. Kang Hu watched them without concern, reflecting on the chaos in the National Hunter Security Agency of Osan. At that moment, a notification appeared stating that he had killed the target and obtained his bloodthirsty contract. Kang Hu was extremely curious, thinking, how does being bloodthirsty feel? He was satisfied with his achievements, having gained 2 contracts in just one day. Kang Hu looked up and requested from the system, "You should sponsor me as well, right?" But it simply replied with 2 words, "Crazy person." Kang Hu stood watching the system screen displaying the notification, "You have killed the target and taken his contract with the Bloodthirsty," and thought, "I've already acquired 2 constellations just today." The system screen continued to display detailed information about the new constellation's traits. Kang Hu thought, a constellation that can fake a boost in mental state, that's good. Kang Hu noticed a special item from the guy, a precious magic-resistant anklet, and the shoes that also boost speed. Kang Hu looked at the glove emitting a blue glow and said, "And there's also the glove that increases stamina." Kang Hu put on the new glove and began strategizing, thinking, if I wear one of these gloves on one hand and a single-use glove on the other, that's perfect. Kang Hu turned his back and walked away, leaving young Jae lying motionless, thinking, let's finish this task, shall we? The scene shifted to a panoramic view of the bustling and dazzling city of Daeyeon, under the night lights, as Yerin exclaimed, "Wow." She smiled in satisfaction and said, "I can't believe how quickly you found Vartaro's shoes." Kang Hu listened with a calm expression as Yerin continued softly, "Thank you." Yerin explained leisurely, "To be honest, the first task was just a small challenge." Kang Hu contemplated, "So that means 50% will die." He clicked his tongue and continued to evaluate internally. It's all thanks to her cold, calculating mind, which is why she has such a high success rate in difficult missions. Yurin placed a document file on the table and pushed it across, saying, "As promised, I'll allow you to enter a dungeon with many mid-level monsters. Here's the information about it." The document showed images of the area along with specific descriptions, including the location of 4 mid-level monsters and a main monster at Howling Wind Hill near Gapyeong Station. Yirin observed Kang Hu attentively examining the document and gently asked, "Do you like it?" Kang Hu smirked and thought, that dungeon has 5 skills I could steal. Kang Hu made a request to her, "Book me a spot for tomorrow morning, please." He then asked, tossing out 2 items and startling Yirin, "By the way, do you buy and sell items?" Yirin examined the glowing items spread across the table and commented, "Kim Mukyan certainly takes a lot. I'll give you a good price." She unfolded a new mission file on the table and suggested, "Shall we move on to the next mission?" Kang Hu tapped his finger lightly on the information page, and Yirin explained further about the content, which was a mission from the National Security Agency for escort duty. A photograph of Heo Young-tae sitting on a bench was displayed in the file, complete with detailed information about the target. Name, Heo Young-tae. Crime, theft of national property and causing injury. Reward, 300 million won and free access to a dungeon under level 100. Yirin held the paper in her hand and analyzed the difficulty of this target with him, saying, "Finding his base is quite difficult, can you do it? Especially since he was last seen near Yangpyeong Station, a place no one frequents." Kang Hu smiled confidently at her and replied gently, "It's okay, I've already figured out how to find him." The cityscape was aglow with bright lights under the dark night as Kang Hu walked through an empty alley, thinking, after selling the items I don't need, I've earned 250 million won. Kang Hu held his phone as he continued to plan for the future, thinking, now that I've made money, I need to create more escape routes for myself. The phone connected, and the person on the other end immediately asked, "Who is this?" He calmly made his request. "I want to buy 10 Solasium. Location is Yongsan Station." The listener on the other end replied succinctly, "Got it." Kang Hu hung up the phone and said to himself, there's still some time before my dungeon expedition. He decided to enter a bar, lit brightly with lights, and thought, I'll have a drink and gather some information. Inside, the atmosphere was incredibly lively with the enthusiastic cheers of the crowd as a fierce battle between 2 people unfolded. One guy, hit painfully, doubled over and let out a loud roar. The victor excitedly raised his weapon to the admiring cheers of the entire surrounding audience. The crowd around didn't stop shouting with fevered excitement, urging to bet everything and kill him. Kang Hu casually approached the bar and fanned out a stack of money to place an order, 1 blasting Solasium. Benny looked at his stack of money in surprise and questioned with skepticism, "A blasting Solasium?" She smiled gently at Kang Hu and explained, "Didn't expect someone to order that, the taste is quite peculiar." He calmly replied, "That's my taste." Benny cheerfully winked and smiled at him in a friendly manner. "Hang on a moment, okay?" Kang Hu quietly observed her and thought to himself, so far in clubs like this, bartenders often have a lot of useful information. Kang Hu pondered further. Of course, those weren't verified information. Suddenly, he was startled in surprise, his eyes widening in amazement with a cold sweat running down his face. He turned to look at the person and silently exclaimed in shock. Kang Hu was astonished to see So-hee and wondered, what the hell is that woman doing here? Kang Hu looked over at her and realized, Ah, the subordinate of the executive manager of Heavenly Corporal, Kang Donghyun. He thought, Cha So-hee, the hunting dog. He frowned worriedly and thought, is Heavenly Corporal starting to track me? Just then, Benny placed a drink on the table for Kang-hoo and softly complimented, it's a shame, I've never seen anyone as handsome as you. She smiled warmly at him and continued, seeing you from now on is going to be difficult. Kang-hoo looked at Benny in surprise and asked, why? She leaned in closer to him and whispered, I've just heard rumors, but she continued to disclose, it seems like Heavenly Corporal is targeting taking over this club. Kang-hoo seemed quite surprised by the news. He imagined the hunters being brutally exploited in the mines and thought their plan might involve placing hunters here to send them to the mines. He then glanced at the drink in his hand and affirmed to himself, that's the typical recruitment method of Heavenly Corporal. Kang-hoo realized the reason, looked towards So-hee in the distance with inner frustration, and thought, so that's why Cha So-hee is here. Can't even drink in peace. With this thought, he quickly stood up and thought, I should get out of here quickly. Suddenly, a loud noise startled Benny and Kang-hoo as they opened their eyes in shock and turned towards the sound. Kang-hoo frowned with a sneer and cursed inwardly. Damn it. A group of people entered, causing him to think, I'm screwed. Someone in the crowd shakily shouted upon recognizing the formidable force, Heavenly Corporal. A nervous guest loudly addressed the newly arrived group. You've come all the way here. The leader of the group issued a cold warning to his subordinates. Be careful with your actions. He spoke calmly and loudly. They're all just good merchandise. Immediately, his subordinates rushed forward to attack, creating a very chaotic scene. That guest was quickly restrained by someone and screamed in fear. The attacker punched him hard in the stomach, making him gag. Elsewhere, a sharp slash came down swiftly, slicing a metal rod in half and making the person holding it cry out softly. The lackey raised an eyebrow in surprise when he realized someone had appeared. Kang-hoo stood calmly across from the lackey, making him angrily shout, What are you staring at? After speaking, the lackey swung his axe wildly at Kang-hoo with a fierce shout, Do you want to die? Kang-hoo immediately used the teleportation skill to disappear with the glowing sword in hand, causing the lackey to inadvertently cleave down on his own ally who was rushing forward, making him scream. Panicked, he didn't realize the sword was now at his neck. He thought, damn it, how did this happen out of nowhere? Kang-hoo appeared and swung his sword, cutting down the opponent. Blood splattered in a spray, accompanied by agonized screams. Two lackeys collapsed to the ground, with a loud crash in front of the remaining onlookers. So-hee stood aside, watching the bar's surroundings become extremely chaotic. Her pupils contracted, and she smiled excitedly upon witnessing Kang-hoo's entire display. So-hee's steps quickly took off. She moved forward urgently. So-hee dashed forward like a ray of light towards Kang-hoo. Seeing this, Kang-hoo was startled, looking at her approaching with an expression of shock. So-hee pulled a short knife from her leg pouch and charged straight ahead to attack. She moved swiftly, slicing through the air, and expertly swung the knife to strike. Kang-hoo watched, amazed at So-hee's sequence of actions. The knife flew past him and stabbed sharply into the back of the man who was about to attack from behind, causing him to cry out in pain. The henchman was startled and panicked when So-hee suddenly rushed in with a surprise attack. So-hee yanked the knife out, creating a deep cut on his shoulder, making him scream in agony. The henchman stared wide-eyed at her and asked with resentment, Why are you doing this? Without answering, So-hee quickly delivered a backward kick, striking him against the wall. Kang-hoo saw the situation and glanced over at So-hee. He wondered to himself, what is she planning to do? She turned to Kang-hoo and asked, I've never seen you before, but I'm interested in you. What guild do you belong to? Kang-hoo looked directly at So-hee and coldly replied, I don't like being tied down, even as she held his shoulder. So-hee heard this, smirked, and replied, even better. Let's just discuss business, shall we? With that said, So-hee and he turned to look back at the scene and continued, after leaving here first, of course. The opposing group was panicked and confused about what was happening and began to chatter. What's going on? Did the plan change? Why is the spy attacking us? So-hee sharply glared at her opponents and mouthed the word, attack. This left the men in front of her extremely bewildered. She continued mouthing another command to her subordinates. Charge. Go. The men, seeing this, were surprised. However, they quickly signaled for their comrades to advance and shouted, capture them. Kang-hoo stood quietly, watching those who rushed at him and So-hee. His eyes were sharp as he thought to himself, this is all part of her plan. So-hee smiled and came forward, saying, I will help too. Kang-hoo glanced at her and thought, is she trying to test my abilities? Kang-hoo took a defensive stance, watching So-hee's figure rush ahead, and thought, I might as well happily pretend to agree. Both immediately charged into battle. Kang-hoo threw a dagger, striking an opponent, who cried out in pain. A companion standing next to the man witnessed the fresh blood spurting from his chest. Despite Sohee's fierce display with her blade slashing wildly, the companion pointed at him and shouted, "Now he's unarmed, attack." Kang Hu remained calm and smiled, extending a hand forward. He quickly used energy to make the dagger fly and fiercely unleashed a slash that tore through the air. The devastating slash directly took down the enemies, causing blood to splatter everywhere. Kang Hu grabbed the dagger's hilt and severed the hand of an enemy, poised to strike with an axe. After swiftly dealing with one enemy, he continued advancing despite the cries of pain from behind. Sohee was utterly amazed by the magical scene unfolding before her eyes and thought, that's mind-controlled movement. Kang Hu noticed her gaze and casually looked back at her in response. He smiled mysteriously, raising his blade, and announced, "Let's head to the escape route." Having said that, he quickly sprinted forward at an astonishing speed. The people behind him were shocked and shouted, "He's running!" So he turned back and signaled to the group, "Chase after him quickly." The crowd immediately pursued Kang Hu while shouting, "Chase that bastard!" A man hurriedly chased after him, loudly assigning tasks to his companions. Everyone else, deal with the hall. So he quickly followed closely next to Kang Hu, continuously questioning him, "Aren't you an assassin? You also use magic?" He smiled with a mysterious grin, looked down at his glove and thought, "Magic, huh? That would be nice." Kang Hu thought about the energy surrounding his hand and gave an ambiguous response to Sohee's curious inquiry. "This will be connected to the dagger." He thought to himself, "Think whatever you like. There's no need to reveal anything about myself right now." Kang Hu fiercely kicked the door open with great force and was suddenly surprised to see a group standing tightly on the stairs. The club's speaker system suddenly blared an urgent announcement, informing customers that there was currently an intruder from Black Lion causing chaos in the club. A man sneered as he kicked the person lying on the ground and disdainfully said, "You lowly scum." The person behind him added, "Let's get them to the detention center." The bloodied person on the ground gritted his teeth and loudly exclaimed, "Stop talking nonsense." The speaker system continued to reassure everyone, announcing that Tien Thuk was trying to quickly suppress them. The crowd immediately hurriedly rushed down the stairs towards Kang Hu. Someone swung a hammer with immense force for a direct attack, but Kang Hu dodged it. Kang Hu calmly swung his dagger, slashing at the enemy's head, causing the adversary to cry out in pain. He then immediately delivered a powerful elbow strike to the head, making his eyes widen, and he collapsed to the ground. Kang Hu rushed forward but was startled when he saw a virtual screen appear. The system screen suddenly displayed a new message. "The constellation of the Disciple of Justice has been impressed by your punishment of the hypocrites, consuming its power to strengthen you. Experience increased by 0.1%. As he continued running, he smirked sarcastically and thought, "Thank you, Justice." He swiftly ducked to evade incoming attacks from both sides while thinking, "This is ridiculous." A terrifyingly powerful slash quickly tore through the air, completely taking down the obstacle in his way. Kang Hu turned back to look at the person who had thrown the dagger and thought, "Such a weakling." Sohee, standing behind, gave him a smug smile. Kang Hu was surrounded from all sides, yet he continued to smile and think, "Can something like this appear in this world again?" Kang Hu calmly smirked and looked back at the group rushing toward him, thinking to himself, "Who cares?" They gritted their teeth in panic as they looked at him, considering their options. Kang Hu thought, "I can respond to that gift." An axe was thrown towards Kang Hu's head, but he quickly dodged it. The axe struck with great force, embedding itself into the wall. Kang Hu quickly took advantage of it, stomping on the axe handle to propel himself high into the air. As he jumped over the person in front of him, he continued thinking, with three villains, Kang Hu tightly gripped the dagger in his hand, then activated the short jump skill to dash forward and take down a slew of enemies. Kang Hu thought, "Constellation of the Disciple of Justice." After a series of fluid actions, he gently knelt down to the ground. Sohee's boots slowly approached. She held a knife loosely, letting it glide across the foreheads of the subordinates lying on the ground. The henchmen blocking the emergency staircase lay sprawled everywhere. Seeing the scene, Sohee thought, "Just as I thought." Then she glanced at Kang Hu, who was quickly kicking the door open on the other side. He slightly smirked and pointed his thumb towards the door at her. Sohee smiled with satisfaction and thought, "I've chosen the right person." The scene then shifted to a brightly lit skyscraper under the starry night sky. Sohee and Kang Hu stood silently next to each other, not saying a word. A man nervously ordered his subordinates around, "Search carefully." They calmly hid behind a wall in the dark, waiting for the others to search through the alley. At this moment, Sohee slightly tilted her head to glance at Kang Hu and tentatively asked, "What do you think about working in a place freer than the guild?" With a confident smile, she handed him a piece of paper and continued to entice. "The pay is quite decent." Kang Hu grabbed it and casually replied, "I'll contact you after handling some issues." After speaking, Kang Hu turned his back and decisively walked away, leaving Sohee standing there watching him. Immediately after, she walked away, her boots making clicking sounds. So he raised her hand to touch the communication device in her ear and responded politely, "Yes, master."
She looked at the tied-up individuals in front of her and quickly reported the situation. "We're done here."
So he smirked and continued to relay the information. "Investigating is easy. Just give me the name." She excitedly smiled with a mysterious grin, repeating the next orders from the other end. At this moment, Kang Hu gave a slight, arrogant smile, full of confidence. So-hee's words continued to echo. The detention center of Chungmyung, right? Kang Hu casually looked at the space robbery skill he had just acquired and laughed to himself, thinking, this is really a great gift. So-hee displayed a bewitching smile and said, "Yes, master." She stepped out to inform her companions, "We're done here." So-hee recalled the scene from 5 minutes ago and said, "It was a bit troublesome indeed." Nevertheless, she maintained a smug smile and boasted, "But I think I'll do just fine. Investigating is simple for me, as long as I have a name." Her eyes gleamed with a deadly intent as she revealed the next key location, the central prison Chungmyung. You mentioned Shin Kang-hu, right? Meanwhile, at a bustling subway station, a pair of feet stepped off a train. It was Shin Kang-hu. Arriving with a striking appearance and looking around, he thought, according to So-hee's father's reaction, I'm not on their wanted list yet.
Shin Kang-hu recalled the dangerous group and thought, "Still, I should be cautious of Daejeon from now on. It's quite troubling with the expansion of the Heavenly Order's influence."
His every step was calculated, aware that they were monitoring trains heading to Gapyeong. A sly smile crept onto his face as he thought, instead of going straight to Gapyeong, I'll pass through Yongsan Station. Carefully, he tore off the tape and opened the package. Inside was a special magic leaf. Shin Kang-hu grinned, thinking, it was delivered quite smoothly. He chuckled inwardly upon obtaining the Solacium, thinking, in the novel, Shin Kang-hu used a hidden space near the train station to receive Solacium. Luckily, I know the way there. Suddenly, a voice caught his attention, proclaiming, this is indeed the best part-time job ever. In the corner, a suspicious person was whispering into a phone, just act a bit, and you can reach the dungeon. The person noticed Shin Kang-hu watching him and shouted, what the hell are you looking at? Seeing Shin Kang-hu standing unfazed, the man hurriedly got up and said, it's nothing, just head to Yongsan Station. A large screen on a Seoul building suddenly displayed a hunter's image, capturing everyone's attention below. The place where factions like the Junghwa Guild monopolize dungeons, ensuring their safety like a mortgage. Moreover, it's a fiercely guarded area where the National Security Bureau operates with strict surveillance, right in front of well-equipped stores. Since these large supermarkets opened, the world of hunters has turned a new page, and the prices here are insanely high, but the shopping variety is 1.5 times greater than other places, so it's not too bad. A level 5 blue sky joy dagger that boosts strength by 50 points caught Kang-hu's eye. He picked it up to examine it, thinking, I should start practicing how to use a dagger as well. To test its true power, Kang-hu held the dagger in one hand while amassing a brilliant blue magical energy in the other. He looked at it and said, let's give it a try. Kang-hu channeled his power into a test stone. With just a light grip combined with the additional stats from the dagger, the stone instantly crumbled to dust on the spot. Looking at the result in his hand, Kang-hu smirked with satisfaction, thinking, it's quite strong. The dagger's passive abilities would also double recovery speed during battle for 30 minutes, boosting his confidence in its effectiveness. Kang-hu grinned cunningly, thinking, the additional effect is nice too. Unlike others, I don't have to worry about mana, but if I overuse mana, I have to manage the pressure. Kang-hu confirmed his purchase, saying, I'll take this one. After buying the desired equipment, he admired the dagger while confidently striding through the bustling streets. Suddenly, a voice excitedly exclaimed, wow, that's interesting, startling Kang-hu. A happy family strolled down the street. The child excitedly said to his mother, Mom, can we have chicken again tonight? The mother smiled and replied, okay, this is Seoul after all. Meanwhile, the father confidently assured, the National Security Agency and the Junghwa Association will protect us. Their words made Kang-hu pensive. Watching the joyful family pass by, he thought, what blind faith? As expected, a scream suddenly pierced the air, causing him to pause. Masked men rushed out to attack the father and kidnap the child. The father frantically begged, please, let my child go. A masked man mocked, are you kidding me, old man?
He mocked arrogantly, signaling for ransom money, saying, if you want to make a request, you must be sincere, while the child squirmed, crying for his father.
Kang-hu watched and thought, they dare to act so brazenly in broad daylight. Onlookers shouted for the National Security Agency and called for someone from Hinsa. Appalled by the view, he gripped the dagger tightly, thinking, what foolishness! I'll blow these bastards away and leave the rest for Hinsa to handle. Kang-hu smirked and said, I'll show you sincerity. But as he was about to take action, he stopped, his eyes suddenly widening in surprise. Che Guanhyung appeared right in the middle of the crowd, casually walking over and attracting everyone's attention. Guanhyung flashed an arrogant smile amidst everyone's astonishment. He's the head of the Gunghwa Guild. Simultaneously, a system panel appeared, revealing the War Demon constellation, the Wicked constellation, and a constellation specializing in sword arts and spatial division. Kang-hu stood still, speculating. He hadn't expected to meet one of Zhang Xuan's colleagues in this place. He's not the type to get involved in things like this. So why is he here? Guanhyung took out a black card and tossed it toward the two villains. The two masked men neatly caught it. One of them looked at the card in his hand with confusion, wondering what it was. Guanhyung smiled generously and said, "Withdraw as much money as you like. Release the child." Seeing someone flaunting their wealth, the robber nodded with satisfaction, saying, "Nice." He violently shoved the child away and shouted, "Get out of here!" Guanhyung quickly caught the child. The terrified father quickly embraced his child, asking, "Are you okay?" Dark, ominous energy emanated from Guanhyung's hands. Thanks to spatial teleportation skills, he easily vanished. Kang Hu observed the entire incident from a distance, thinking, he is indeed very powerful. A swordsman specialized in using space as a battle attribute. His feet touched the ground, signaling the start of a massacre. A furious explosion of dark ghostly energy engulfed the entire area. Around the two robbers, a black mist enclosed them, causing them to yell in panic, "What's happening?" Before they could understand what was happening, Guanhyung was already charging towards them like the wind. With no wasted movements, he coldly swung his sharp sword, slicing off the upper half of one robber. The remaining thief screamed in fear, calling out his companion's name, Hook. Kang Hu looked at the scene before him and suddenly recognized the remaining thief. It was the one he had just seen at the train station. The thief trembled and backed up, his face drained of color. He shouted in despair, "Was it really murder?" The thief begged for his life while Guanhyung mocked him. "Let me go. I followed your instructions. Didn't you say it was just an act?" Every conversation within the boundary was blocked by the space isolation skill, causing the crowd outside to become curious. What is he saying? Is it because he's using a skill that we can't hear anything? Realizing he was being used as a disposable pawn, the thief gritted his teeth and drew his sword. He recklessly charged forward, hoping to find a way to survive. But fighting against a high-ranked swordsman, he was sure to lose. Guanhyung swiftly bypassed him, sending the obstacle into oblivion to silence him. A wicked smile appeared on his face, a man ready to eliminate any witness to complete his own heroic act. After dealing with the two pawns that were being exploited, the dark barrier gradually disappeared, leaving behind two lifeless bodies amidst the cheers of the crowd. Guanhyung leisurely walked away and said, "Everything's safe now." Having witnessed all the cunning tricks from beginning to end, Kangoo sighed disdainfully. What a perfect act. Using these thugs to deceive the public and create a legal monopoly into the Junghwa society. It couldn't be more perfect. Ignoring Guanhyung, who was basking in the adulation of the crowd, Kanghu turned his back and left. Enjoy it while you can. I will take all your privileges. Guanhyung's power points increased by 25. The scene then shifts to an office room where Gang Yu awkwardly presented a stack of reports. She came in person, but I sincerely apologize. The man cautiously handed it over with both hands to Sohee. This is all the information we have. This is the file on the escapee you mentioned. She coldly flipped through the pages of the file, studying it carefully. Sohee's finger paused as she noticed an unusual detail in the report. Meanwhile, Kang Hu had reached the entrance of a secret underground bunker deep in the forest. A voice from the report echoed, "So this person is Shin Kang Hu, huh?" The information about Kang Hu was neatly arranged on the page of the dossier. She smirked, flashing an excited smile. "Looks familiar, doesn't it?" Standing at the dungeon entrance, Kang Hu calmly approached the two guards and asked if it was time for him to enter. The two guards exchanged a glance, noting that the dungeon initialization was complete. However, they eyed Kang Hu suspiciously. The gatekeeper assessed Kang Hu from head to toe and remarked that he was only at level 20, lower than the recommended level. Hearing the guard question his well-being, Kang Hu quietly calculated in his mind, if I want to seize opportunities from these people, I must level up. He remembered Guanhyung and thought further, if this continues, I'll not only lose the opportunity but also be hunted. Opening his status panel for a check, Kang Hu set his lowest target at level 50. Ignoring the warnings of danger, he smirked confidently, thinking, of course, if I want to reach that level quickly, I must endure this. No sooner had he stepped through the teleport gate than a powerful force surged. A blinding sandstorm immediately enveloped him, leading him into a desolate and perilous land. Amidst the dense sandstorm, Kang Hu's vision was severely obstructed, making him tense as he moved forward. It's so hard to see, he thought. He turned to look back and carefully calculated, if I don't leave a trace, I'll get lost. Suddenly, something startled him, causing him to stop abruptly. The ground beneath him began to crack and collapse. Luckily, Kang Hu was watching where he was going, otherwise he might have fallen into a deep abyss. He was startled and backed away, thinking, that was close, the path has been leveled. But before he could recover, Kang Hu's sharp ears caught strange noises from behind. Within the blinding sandstorm, numerous pairs of glowing red eyes filled with malice stared at him. They belonged to a pack of desert claw lizards encircling him, ready to tear apart the intruder. Kang Hu showed no fear, smirking as he slowly drew his dagger, thinking, if things go smoothly, I'll reach my goal sooner than expected. Before Kang Hu could prepare, the lizards launched themselves from above, marking the start of a fierce battle for survival. Meanwhile, in the office, Sohee was still intently studying Kang Hu's background information as Gang Yu stood there reporting their efforts to recreate how he escaped the pursuit. Sohee looked up and asked, what are the results? Gang Yu recalled the scene when Dongyun confronted Kang Hu and thought he used magic to defeat them. He was very lucky to deceive a level 100 hunter, especially since Dongyun wasn't even on guard and was feeling triumphant. Gang Yu tensed and lowered his head as he pointed out the absurdity. But the absurdity lay in how he could predict future attacks, which couldn't possibly be the power of someone at level 10. Sohee silently scrutinized the magic diagram recorded in the documents. She closed the file and softly said, thank you. Returning the file, Sohee said, to be honest, I met the escaped prisoner a few days ago. Gang Yu, surprised, asked, what? Sohee continued, I predict he's at least level 100, causing Gang Yu's face to darken in horror. As she finished speaking, Sohee erupted in fury, magical flames suddenly flaring intensely in her hand. Then what is this? You don't even know his rank.
Meanwhile, Kang Hu had drawn his dagger, ready to engage in battle with the beasts.
Immediately, the monsters rushed at him, and Kang Hu swung his arm, throwing the dagger at them. A critical stab embedded itself in one of the monsters, causing it to cry out in pain. His eyes coldly calculated. Just as I thought, I aimed for its belly, but can I only wound it this much? How can I catch them all like this? Kang Hu concentrated his inner strength to control the dagger. In response to his control, the dagger thrust into another monster. In the blink of an eye, the dagger swept through the group of monsters. Kang Hu observed the surroundings and noted only 2 monsters left unscathed. The sharp blade cut through the remaining 2 monsters. The horde of lizard monsters fell one after another to the ground, while Kang Hu calmly retrieved his dagger, looking incredibly cool. He smirked arrogantly and beckoned the remaining monsters to come at him. The group of lizards growled madly, preparing to attack. They charged like a storm, but Kang Hu calmly stood his ground. In his mind, he analyzed the game mechanics. There is something I must be cautious of when hunting monsters: damage. Even if the monsters die, if I can't inflict wounds, no one will acknowledge the hunter as the one who defeated them.
The monsters drew closer to Kang Hu, but he was still thinking, but if I can wound the monster, even just a little...
Kang Hu stomped the ground hard, accelerating rapidly. He turned and ran backward while continuing his calculations. Then everything would change. The monsters snarled and jumped, slashing with their claws. At the last moment, Kang Hu activated his special skill, a short leap, jumping over an abyss. Fooled by him, the monsters fiercely followed and jumped. Kang Hu landed gently on the other side of the abyss. He turned back to watch the monsters all fall straight into the chasm. They crashed to the ground, bleeding profusely. Their bodies began to vanish, and a notification appeared immediately. You have defeated a common monster. Thanks to the mechanic where even causing an injury earns points, notifications burst like fireworks, and Kang Hu stood amidst them, feeling triumphant. The system message appeared honoring him for leveling up rapidly to level 27, and he smiled contentedly. Success. In a secret room somewhere, Sohee stared at the floor. Is this Shin Kang Hu's drawing?
A mysterious magic circle was drawn by Kang Hu, and she thought, why did he perform a ritual with blood?
Sohee frowned in confusion, wondering if he intended to summon a constellation. At that moment, her phone rang. Sohee answered the phone. Yes, master. The voice on the other end asked, are you close to completing the investigation? She reported the situation. I'm still investigating. That escaped prisoner is no ordinary person. The person on the other end agreed. I think so too. Sohee suggested to her superior, I need one more person. Her boss asked, why? Sohee, irritated, explained the captain was unclear about the escapee's case. She got angry and killed him. Back to Kang Hu's developments. The lizard monsters gradually vanished. Kang Hu held the crystal he had harvested and examined it for a long time. His eyes became icy cold, as if recalling something. Memories flooded back of Kang Hu struggling to push carts of crystals in the dim, punishing mines. He threw the crystal away forcefully, knowing Sohee's father probably knows he is an escaped prisoner now. Kang Hu clenched his hand tightly with determination, thinking, I can't be captured so easily. Unexpectedly, a fiery monster approached from behind with overwhelming pressure. It aggressively advanced towards Kang Hu. Instead of fear, he grinned with excitement, thinking, I've been waiting. Kang Hu drew his weapon, silently declaring, the first skill will be obtained here. But just as the confrontation was about to erupt, someone was secretly watching them from above. A mysterious figure quietly held a bow, aiming a sharp arrow directly at Kang Hu. The monster's hand hung loosely under the water. At that moment, Aibo lay motionless, and the system displayed a notification. You have stolen a skill from the target. Fire Elemental Transmission. Kang Hu saw the system notification and smiled slightly. You can upgrade the skill based on the power of the constellation. You can transmit the fire element into all weapons. Meanwhile, on the cliff, someone was stealthily observing him from above. Leo, watching from above, couldn't help but be surprised. He defeated the mid-level boss so quickly. He recalled Kang Hu's earlier attack, thinking his hunting skills were also quite adept. After stabbing Aibul, Kang Hu retracted his sword. The creature frowned tightly at him. Angered by Kang Hu, it went berserk and immediately chased him, first leading the fire elementals to the oasis. But as it was pursuing, Aibul reached him only to find it was an illusion, using illusion magic to deceive it. And so it fell into the water, just as Kang Hu had planned, causing it to plunge into the lake, showing he's not like a low-level person. Leo realized why he was asked to monitor Kang Hu, understanding why the captain was interested in him. At that time, Leo had pushed Kang Hu's information file towards Yurin, asking, "You want me to track him?" The picture in the file was of Kang Hu. He picked up the photo to look at it carefully. Yurin explained why she ordered him to do so. His test results are excellent, but his rank is too low, which worries me a bit. She also gave him additional instructions. Help him if he's in danger. She smiled at Leo. Don't forget to list the benefits of joining our team to him when the time comes. He realized that Kang Hu would certainly bring great benefits to the Blue Alliance if they help him level up. He stood up, ready to continue following Kang Hu, thinking he should keep an eye on him a bit longer. A sword suddenly shot forward. It pierced through the protective shield of the guards. The guard's shield immediately broke upon being hit by his sword. Kang Hu called back his sword, observing that their defensive shield was indeed quite sturdy. The shield-wielding guards took the lead, forming a mid-level defender boss. The second row of guards gradually appeared, forming a mid-level middle defender boss. And finally, the strongest guards, forming a mid-level forward boss, appeared. They lined up in a long row in order, as if trying to prove the meaning of unity. Looking at them made Kang Hu recall Yaren's words about forming a team to protect each other. This reminded him of Li Yuren's words. Kang Hu remembered talking to her, saying, "I'll contact you after dealing with Heo Jungtae." Yeren quickly called him back. "Wait a minute, Sungkyu." She leaned on her chin, looking at him. "Taking on missions is good, but have you considered working with us full-time? Dungeons aren't easy to handle alone." Kang Hu turned his head to look at Yuren without saying anything. He smiled to himself. Returning to the present, Kang Hu leaped into the air. They were astonished to see him, realizing the consequences of relying on others when they can't handle it alone. Kang Hu picked up his sword. He quickly thrust his sword into the guard's shield. Then he swiftly ran around to continue. Kang Hu used his skill to move quickly to another location, teleporting. The guards were startled, not expecting him to be able to do that. They stood still, unsure of what he would do next, as he used his skill to seize their vision. They were confused, not knowing what to do, internally panicking. Kang Hu used short jumps to create distance between himself and them. When he was far enough away, he stopped. Good. He stood on his tiptoes and prepared. This distance was appropriate, to use his skill to capture them. The guards gradually disappeared. At that moment, Kang Hu quickly surged forward, capturing them. He approached them. Kang Hu bent down, swiftly passing through the guards. He frowned and said, "This is why I don't like working in groups." They recoiled when Kang Hu continued. "You've seen the consequences of relying on others when you can't handle it yourself." Kang Hu charged forward with his teleportation skill. It flinched upon seeing him right in front of it. Kang Hu continued using short jumps. He laughed maniacally as he attacked them. Ready for this? They were easily defeated by him without being able to fight back. The guards were quickly knocked away. At the same time, the system displayed a message. "You have defeated a mid-level boss." Kang Hu turned to see a guard rushing towards his position. He stood still, waiting for it to come toward him. The two locked eyes. Kang Hu seized the right moment and charged to confront it, teleporting. But the guard foresaw this and attacked from the other side. Still, it couldn't hit him. Just kidding, illusion magic. Kang Hu couldn't help but mock it. "You idiot." He somehow had managed to stand behind it. Kang Hu defeated that guard with a single strike. It trembled as it looked at him. Then the guard fell, gaining experience points, and you just leveled up to level 29. He withdrew the sword from its body. The system message made Kang Hu glance up. "You have received the skills: Defender, Guard, and Midfielder. Combining these three forms the Protection Shield skill." Kang Hu suddenly paused for a moment as the system menu appeared. He chewed on a herb in his mouth, pondering,
Protection shield is a type of installed shield that lasts until it's broken. Interesting. It becomes an installation type after reaching the maximum level.
Kang Hu placed his hands on his hips and spoke to himself. This will definitely be more useful. From above, seeing him easily defeat the guards, someone praised him. He's even better than I thought. Leo stood up and picked up his bow, considering, no, it's still too early to conclude. He looked in the direction Kang Hu was heading. I'll know for sure when he faces the main boss. The sky turned crimson, with thunder rumbling overhead. Elisha smiled as she saw him approaching. Leo was secretly watching him from behind a tree. He hesitated, unsure of what to do next. Kang Hu spoke. Finally, we meet. He looked at Elisha, who was laughing maniacally, and thought, from the very start, you were the prey I was targeting. As soon as the words left his mouth, arrows swiftly launched to attack Ibria. Seeing the arrows about to hit, Ibria quickly dodged them. He then quickly used black spheres to retaliate against the earlier arrows. These spheres are known as black fireballs. Therefore, Kang Hu quickly used his skill, short jumps, to deftly dodge those black spheres. Suddenly, spheres came from right behind Ibria, leaving him utterly shocked. The sphere quickly expanded, ready to explode with tremendous destructive force. Seeing this, he quickly used his defensive magic skill combined with his short jump. Seeing Kang Hu dodge those attacks, Ibria immediately used a rain of arrows. This made Kang Hu worried, as it was difficult to find a good angle for his attack. While he was deep in thought, Ibria unleashed the rain of arrows. Kang Hu realized this was because Ibria kept using skills in front of him. At this moment, defensive magic behind Ibria was very weak, so Kang Hu quickly understood the magic was weaker from behind. Therefore, he thought that close combat was the best way to defeat a mage, thinking he could take a few arrows to get close. But then he quickly moved right in front of Ibria, ready for close combat. However, this made him grit his teeth in discomfort, thinking, I'm sure I'll be affected by the blood explosion. This posed a massive disadvantage to him, as Ibria snapping his fingers would trigger a reaction Kang Hu feared Ibria's signature skill. He was certain that a blood explosion would kill him instantly. Kang Hu quickly ran around, contemplating, I need another way to approach him. All the skills he's shown so far must be all he has. He expertly dodged the arrows, thinking, I've only shown him my short jump skill. He doesn't know about my other abilities. After some time of battling, an unusual silence suddenly blanketed the atmosphere. Leo was amazed at the situation unfolding before him, thinking, neither of them can deliver the final blow. I didn't expect him to take so long finding his opponent's weaknesses. Suddenly, his eyes widened in disbelief as he witnessed what was happening. At this moment, Ibria was gathering immense power to charge at Kang Hu. He had changed, and his eyes gradually turned red as he looked at Kang Hu. Kang Hu saw this and smirked, saying, you must be getting uncomfortable. Hearing this provoked Ibria, who quickly summoned more black fireballs for a new attack. Seeing this, Kang Hu wasn't afraid and said, I'll show you a surprise right here. Once again, it was Kang Hu running away from those fears. Then he smiled in satisfaction, thinking, finally. Seeing Ibria in the predicted position made him pleased. Ibria was within range for his move. Immediately, he ran quickly up to him and said, hello. This only made Ibria extremely angry, preparing to unleash the next move. Seeing this made Kang Hu confused, thinking, damn it, he's still casting spells even in this dangerous situation? The attack created a massive explosion right there, making Leo struggle to stand and dodge. Although it wasn't as predicted, Kang Hu still executed his plan to teleport behind Ibria and confidently said, you're dead meat. His action left Ibria utterly shocked, his eyes widening in disbelief. However, Ibria wasn't afraid and smirked because behind Kang Hu was the fireball he had set. Suddenly, the sphere hadn't exploded and remained hovering. Then Kang Hu smirked and said, you were too careless. After that, he raised his hand into the air to use his skill. Kang Hu immediately laughed and used his shield to deflect the fireball into the sky. He then quickly harnessed his power and infused fire elements. Without delay, he stabbed straight into Ibria's stomach, leaving his opponent no time to react, causing him to spew blood. Then Kang Hu quickly set Ibria's body ablaze, igniting him. Ibria's entire body was instantly consumed by flames, leaving nothing unburned. At this moment, Ibria's body had been reduced to ashes and vanished completely. Kang Hu felt incredibly excited, thinking that infusing fire elements wasn't so bad after all. Leo, watching from behind, was horrified and thought, he single-handedly defeated Alicia at that level. The report has been sent to the leader. The system notified Kang Hu that he had stolen a skill from the target, blood explosion. This made him extremely satisfied, considering he had achieved his main objective with this acquisition. He then looked over at Leo, who had left earlier, and laughed. Immediately after, a series of notifications appeared, stating that his level had significantly increased to level 32. He had obtained the assassin's basic skill, acceleration. Kang Hu felt he was leveling up rather nicely.
Suddenly, the system informed him of a praise from the Master Nebula, granting him a small nebula power buff, increasing experience gain rate by 1.3%.
Seeing the reward made Kang Hu extremely satisfied and thought, an unexpected reward. I didn't know the scale of the sponsorship was this large. The system also informed him that the master was willing to continue providing rewards generously. Then, a piece of equipment quickly appeared at his feet. It rapidly took shape into something incredibly strange. As soon as he saw it, he smiled and thought, this will be useful. At the apartment, a voice rang out. Yes, sir, it was Cha Suhee on the phone with her superior. I have found where Shin Kang-hu was staying. She smiled while walking and said, yes, it is locked, but I will burn it to ashes. She then used her magic to unlock the door and confidently said, I will go in and find something that could be evidence. The neighbor next to him was observing while texting Kang-hu. He texted Kang-hu, warning him that the Heaven Church had found his home and that they were looking for traces of Shin Kang-hu. He looked through the peephole and saw the group had entered the house to search, while Suhee was still on the phone saying, but I guess it's empty.
Dong Haiyun was on the other end of the call, smoking and saying, Shin Kang-hu.
He made me want to capture him even more. Hearing that, she was confused and said, sorry. He continued, he doesn't hesitate to move into dangerous territories. He is both cautious and daring. So he replied, I knew you would like him. He added, his caution is a useful trait that you lack, so he said Kang-hu would be an excellent competitor for the title if he worked for him. Hearing this made her extremely surprised. Competition? She was handed a report while Dong Hyun asked if they found any traces. She replied, yes. She smirked and said to Dong Hyun, I think. The owner of this house is a hunter. Outside the apartment, Seyon was watching while on the phone. She was calling, but no one answered, so she quickly sent a message looking anxious. After searching the house, he left and called. You can be happy now, sir. I think we've found a lead. Meanwhile, Kang-hu was heading outside and thought, following Alicia was truly important. The blood explosion skill I obtained was the main reward, but the items I picked up weren't bad either. Selling the Emerald Magic Stone earned him quite a lot, 50 million won, and he couldn't forget about the ring that enhanced the bleeding effect. On top of that, he also got a skill book. It wasn't for his class, but he had a way to use it for now. While walking down the road, he suddenly stopped and couldn't move forward. Because there were 2 guards at the cave entrance, Kang-hu turned around and thought, I'm quite far from the dungeon now, and my phone is just starting to get reception. While walking, he suddenly widened his eyes in shock when he received a message. It was a message left by Seoyeon. She had tried calling him, but he didn't answer, so she left a message saying the Heaven Church had come to investigate him, and she thought they were after him. Reading those messages made him smirk, grateful for the warning. He immediately understood who the group was and thought, she's quick, Cha Sohee.
Kang-hu thought, is this the power of information possessed by the Flower Guild, just as expected from a satellite branch of the Junghwa Guild?
He began to plan. If Ten-tuk is tracking me, they will soon come after Lee Yeren. Kang-hu analyzed, with Yeren, I'm just a business partner. She has no reason to protect me, especially since I've refused to join her. He reflected, but given the conflict between Lam Dong and Ten-tuk over Daejeon, there's no reason for them to assist Ten-tuk by giving away my information. Thinking to this point, Kang-hu decided to take action. Just like the plan, I'll capture Heo Jung-tae. He looked ahead and thought, but I need some help for this. When I arrive, I should meet that person first. At the same time, Do-hoon was still continuing with his assigned mission. He ruffled his hair in frustration and thought, I wonder if I can capture Heo Jung-tae at this rate. Do-hoon recalled the words he had heard. I understand that you're very passionate because this involves your fellow countrymen, but let it go. That voice echoed in Do-hoon's ears. The issue in Yangpyeong is beyond our jurisdiction anyway. His eyes became sharper as he recalled reaching this point. Do-hoon glanced at the electronic map, highlighting the last house in the records. Shortly after, he followed the path and moved inside. As soon as Do-hoon arrived, he immediately knocked on the door and simultaneously asked, is anyone there? Yun-jae's face appeared prominently in his line of sight, asking, who is it? Do-hoon didn't hesitate and asked directly, is there anyone named Heo Jung-tae here? He clenched his teeth at this, wondering who that was.
Yun-jae added, I live here alone.
Suspicion arose in him, so he scanned the room and suddenly noticed a gun. Do-hoon's eyes narrowed slightly, and he asked, are you a hunter? He shifted slightly at the question, asking, are you talking about my gun? Then Yun-jae sighed. I have it because the world is very dangerous. I'm pretty sure everyone has one.
Do-hoon bowed his head to look at the digital watch on his wrist. I'm so tired, it's not here either.
Just then, the door behind him quietly opened. An ominous atmosphere immediately surrounded him. The corners of Yun-jae's mouth involuntarily lifted. Without hesitation, he directly aimed the gun at Do-hoon. At this moment, Do-hoon, sensing the danger, quickly drew his sword. Do-hoon decisively advanced straight toward his target. He launched an unexpected and fierce attack, leaving Yunjae unable to react in time.
Do-hoon's eyes turned dark. So you're a sharpshooter.
He said in a harsh tone, "You should have equipped a silencer." Seeing that Yunjae still intended to flee, Do-hoon immediately acted. Yunjae seemed to lose all his strength and fell heavily to the floor. Suddenly, the tip of a sword appeared right in his line of sight. Then he ordered, "Tell me everything you know about Heo Jung-tae."
Yunjae yelled, "I only saw him once through an assignment, and he said he would kill anyone who searches for him."
He added, "All I know is that he's hiding very well, and though I don't know who it is, he has someone quite formidable backing him."
Do-hoon slightly lowered his swords and thought, "Someone backing him?" Not long after, he continued to silently analyze every clue, mumbling about the reason for the halt in the Yangpyeong investigation. At that moment, a noise suddenly disrupted his train of thought. Do-hoon stood silently, observing the group of people gradually approaching. He watched them, wondering, what is the National Security Agency of Seoul doing here?
Do-hoon became more cautious, thinking, I can't go back yet. I need to avoid detection and return to the hideout.
Suddenly, a voice echoed, "You said it was this way, right?" Upon hearing this, Do-hoon couldn't help but think, "Damn it, what should I do now?" Unexpectedly, Kang-hoo was already there and said, "Are you from the National Security Agency?" He chuckled and said, "I have a few questions." The other party responded, "We're on a mission, so—"
Kang-hoo lowered his voice. "Don't be like that. A hunter robbed me on that main road over there."
He immediately redirected their gaze. And with that, Do-hoon smoothly slipped out of their sight. He hid in a nearby corner and thought with relief, that was close. At that moment, Kang-hoo also wore a hint of a smile. Not long after, Do-hoon entered an old building. He stood quietly, observing the neatly arranged albums. Do-hoon flipped to the photo he was looking for and stared at it thoughtfully for a long time. A flurry of memories flooded his mind in an instant. A voice echoed in Do-hoon's ears. "Congratulations, you're heading to Seoul, right? Wow, you really made it. I heard they have quite a bit of influence, unlike other places. Are you also working with the Junghwa Guild?" He laughed. "Come on, give it a rest." The other party suddenly cleared their throat and said, "All right, just let me go."
Simultaneously, they added, I will take care of the responsibilities here. Don't worry and just go. I'm here, you're in Seoul.
The voice grew softer and softer in Do-hoon's mind, saying, "Let's protect our justice in our own way." Suddenly, the sound of footsteps echoed, causing him to look over. Do-hoon watched and quickly recognized him as the guy from before. He quietly stepped forward and asked, "How do you know about this place?" Kang-hoo spoke with a pensive tone. The name, Yu Do-hoon. He slowly moved closer, saying, "Estimated current level, 362. Do you work for the National Security Agency?" He started to be cautious, asking, "Have you investigated my background, or are you also from the National Security Agency?" Kang-hoo replied, "No, but I know why you're looking for Heo Jung-tae." He promptly suggested, "What do you think about cooperating with me?" On the other side, Yiring quietly said, "It's a pity that you're not interested in the mercenary group." She smiled, saying, "You're incredibly impressive for someone who's just a trustee. Maybe after some time, I think I'll be able to introduce you to Jang Shiwan." Suddenly, a loud noise spread, startling both of them to turn and look. So-hee's voice echoed over, "How dare you? Turn back now." Yirin frowned, thinking, how could it be okay? With determination, she flung the door open and gave her a sharp look. So-hee held a piece of paper in her hand and cleared her throat, saying, "Finally, I found you." At that moment, he was astonished to see the groups of people in front of him, muttering, "Bloodhounds." At the same time, Yirin stood up, exclaiming, "How dare you?" An intense wave of killing intent radiated from Yirin as she said, "Crawl in here, Cha So-hee." She smiled. "No need to be so cautious. I didn't come here today to cause trouble." As if to confirm, So-hee presented Kang-hoo's information in front of Yirin, asking, "You have seen this person before, right?" Yirin looked at the face appearing prominently in her hand and fell silent. Do-hoon furrowed his brow and asked, "What do I gain from collaborating with you?" Kang-hoo replied nonchalantly, "Do you think capturing Heo Jung-tae will be easy?" Kang-hoo analyzed the situation clearly. "For a regular person, it's already hard to catch him. It will be even harder for you because you're working at the Seoul NSA." Kang-hoo added, "Even just gathering information about your friend there is difficult, isn't it? It seems you can't find it because Yangpyeong is beyond your jurisdiction." He lowered his voice. "I've heard it's because that information is beyond my jurisdiction." Kang-hoo questioned, "Then why do they coincidentally appear there?" Do-hoon's eyes grew increasingly deeper. "What do you mean?" He subtly confirmed, "I'm implying Heo Jung-tae has powerful backing."
Kang Hu continued, a figure so influential that even the NSA is afraid of him.
A fleeting image of his smile crossed Do-hoon's mind. He remembered Yunjae once saying, "His backer is someone terrifying, but I don't know who they are." And the words of Do-hoon's friend, "After all, the Yang Pyong affair is beyond your jurisdiction." After piecing together the information, he realized, is it really true? He urged, "Who is it? Tell me now."
Kang Hu replied casually, his backer is one of the key members of the Zhenghua organization.
Do-hoon felt a sense of helplessness upon hearing this answer, as if it was no answer at all. He brushed past Kang Hu and said, "You're just talking nonsense." Kang Hu raised an eyebrow. "Believe it or not, it's up to you. I don't care."
Kang Hu continued, but one thing that hasn't changed is that both you and I want to capture Heo Yong-tae.
He added, "At 6 in the evening tomorrow, you might catch him if you go to the square."
Kang Hu shrugged and said, "It's not a trap, but if you're suspicious, feel free to investigate."
He lowered his voice and said, "In return, if what I say is true, I need you to cooperate with me on this matter." So he patiently repeated her question, "You've met this person before, haven't you?" Yurin tightly gripped the information sheet in her hand, thinking, "This person is Sunkyu, so his real name is Shin Kang-hu." She thought, if they already sent a bloodhound after him, Heaven's perception must find him intriguing, and then said coldly, "I don't know this person." She suddenly became irritated and snapped, "Don't play games with me. Someone confirmed to me that you were introduced to him?"
Yurin ruffled her hair and admitted, I was introduced to him, but our conditions didn't match, so we parted ways.
She slightly raised her eyes and said, "Are you satisfied now? If not, get lost, or there'll be a big fight." So-hee, not receiving the answer she wanted, couldn't help but feel angry. In the end, she suppressed her anger and warned, "If you're lying, watch out." Then, Yurin watched as So-hee angrily walked out of her office. She immediately ordered, "Send someone to tail Cha So-hee. I need to keep an eye on her every move."
Yurin slightly smirked and thought, if I let Sunkyu know about that crazy bitch, his relationship with Lam Dong will improve, right? Meanwhile, the gentle sunlight was still shining through every corner of the alley.
He suddenly received a message that read, "Someone is looking for Heo Young-tae." After reading, his lips curled up into a smirk as he muttered, "Stupid bastards." Jung-tae openly showed his disdain and thought, "I'm so far away, yet right in front of them, and they still don't notice?" While he was humming a tune, Kang-hu was already standing there. He moved forward without hesitation, saying, "Returning home at 3 a.m.?" Kang-hu silently looked at Young-tae's back and noted, "Later than I expected." He observed the worried expression on his face and emphasized each word, "Heo Jung-tae." He immediately relaxed his facial muscles and said casually, "You've got the wrong person." Kang-hu seemed unaffected by Young-tae's words and immediately used his seizing technique. At that moment, he realized his words no longer held any value. Jung-tae deftly sidestepped and avoided his attack. He suddenly disappeared slowly from Kang-hu's sight. In just a split second, Young-tae had escaped the encirclement Kang-hu had created. Kang-hu glanced over, surprised that he dodged the technique right in front of him. His magic resistance is quite high. Young-tae couldn't help but wonder, is that the bastard who's been looking for me all this time? At the same time, he quietly turned around steadily. He began to act, having already learned about his own den and skills. Jung-tae immediately launched an attack, deciding to kill him. Meanwhile, So-hee continued to investigate Kang-hu's whereabouts. His voice shook uncontrollably, "I don't know anything." In parallel, the other party asserted confidently, "I don't know who Shin Kang-hu is." Hearing this, she showed no mercy and sent him off. So-hee's eyes became colder than ever.
She recalled his message, I will contact you after I resolve these urgent matters.
So-hee fell into silence, thinking, he not only didn't contact me but also disappeared from Daejeon for a few days. He recognized me from the start and went into hiding from me. She had also received an affirmation. If he came to work for me, he would be a worthy opponent for you. So-hee's mood worsened as she thought about this. She mumbled to herself, if he's determined to come and take away the master's love for me then. So-hee's eyes were filled with hatred, and she thought, he's my enemy. She began to calm down, thinking, right, making a mistake once in a while isn't a big deal. So-hee became excited, thinking, the master will understand, even if I accidentally kill Shin Kang-hu.
Meanwhile, a slew of daggers flew towards him along his shadow.
Kang-hu quickly created a protective barrier in an instant. Young-tae was astonished to witness the scene before him, thinking, a shield? He immediately acted more decisively, thinking, he is definitely an assassin. Jung-tae refused to give up and continued to attack more fiercely. Numerous daggers surrounded him. Kang-hu's eyes grew colder and colder. He swiftly maneuvered through the gaps between the daggers. Seeing this, he silently marveled. His eyesight is really good. He's maintaining a distance from me. Could he be observing me while dodging attacks? Young Tae unexpectedly closed the distance with Kang Hu, thinking. He quietly glanced up to observe his opponent.
Jung Tae decided to act, thinking, I'll switch to close combat. He also activated his seizing technique.
Suddenly, his entire body seemed crushed by gravity. As Young Tae's gaze slowly focused more clearly on Kang Hu's face, he couldn't help but be shocked, thinking, what? He seemed unwilling to accept it and shouted, no, how can this be? A knife whizzed through the air ahead with nothing able to stop it. As Kang Hu swiped the knife past his body, a piercing scream resounded, accompanied by a splattering of syrup. After concluding that skirmish, his gaze glanced back in anticipation of the next waves, along with the statement, I have marked my mana in places I think you might escape. Suddenly, a piece of glass shattered unexpectedly. A foot stepped onto the glass shard, causing a small flame to blaze even brighter. A figure approached the door alongside the declaration, you try to move one more time. Kang Hu stood watching the figure struggling to run through the screen. In a flash, his gaze turned colder, declaring, I can clearly see your route this time. Jung Tae, still looking unwilling, gritted his teeth and leapt high, preparing to attack Kang Hu once more. However, the very next moment, he could only slump down with his head hanging, contemplating, damn it, I need to retreat immediately. Kang Hu remained standing in front of the door and challenged, it's useless. Young Tae's face was dotted with some syrup, but he still glanced over with an unyielding look, groaning slightly. Before he could retaliate, Kang Hu swiftly used a blood-burning attack, twisting his body into a perfect arc. Jung Tae's body was hurled towards the wall, striking impressive poses with a shrill scream. Damn it! He grabbed his neck, cursing, I'll tear you to pieces. Damn it. Do you even know who's backing me? Kang Hu, unfazed, retorted casually, of course, Kae Guan-hyung from the Jungwa Guild. Upon hearing this, Young Tae started stammering. How do you know? Kang Hu tightly gripped a rope in his hand and with a calm farewell said, shut up. Good night. On a tranquil afternoon, a lone figure leisurely walked across the expansive courtyard. Do-hoon's eyes suddenly narrowed, showing a great deal of discomfort. Inside the warehouse, Kang Hu stood facing him and questioned, then why were your NSA comrades there and nearly encountered you? What do you mean by that? But right after Kang Hu's explanation, Do-hoon fell into deep thought. I heard the NSA has handled a lot of things through the app, but you use that watch too often for it to just be a keepsake, Kang Hu said. Then his question echoed. So isn't your friend's account still valid? Kang Hu candidly raised a finger and began to analyze. To eliminate that account, the NSA would have to determine that your friend was killed on duty, but the backers of Heo Youngtae wouldn't want that. Not stopping there, he continued to explain. They probably want to resolve this issue as quietly as possible. The silhouettes of each person began to emerge with Kang Hu's words. NSAs in Seoul and Yenpyeong were under the pressure from their backers. They had to choose to cover up the account instead of proceeding with the protocols. Gradually, each memory fragment appeared, leading Do-hoon deeper into contemplation with Kang Hu's explanation. But a few people who could log into this account must have read the investigation information and gone to the villa, he continued. Finally, Kang Hu presented a very firm hypothesis. If I keep my promise, you must cooperate with me by using that account. Every word Kang Hu spoke continued to echo in Do-hoon's mind as he walked down the street. He thought, if what he says is true, then it's really the fault of the Gungwa Guild and the NSA. Suddenly, a thought popped up. What should I do then? At that moment, Kang Hu was already standing in front of Do-hoon, passing judgment. With a displeased look, he replied, I've been waiting for ages. He crossed his arms and looked seriously at the person opposite him, questioning. Where's Heo Jungtae? The other assured calmly. Kang Hu, holding Jungtae, replied, I guarantee I'm carrying him. Do-hoon gaped as he realized, stealth, that's why it's been so hard to find him. Still holding Young Tae, he explained, I intentionally chose such a crowded time. If you arrest him right now, even those backing them can't do anything. Though the one in his hands had no strength left, Kang Hu continued. But if you want to settle a personal grudge with Heo Youngtae, I won't stop you. Then he asked, what do you want? In the afternoon sunlight, beads of sweat dripped down Do-hoon's face, uncertain if from fear or any other reason. From within the crowd, suddenly a suggestion was heard, asking them to make way. From a distance, a man with his head down approached, getting closer to where Kang Hu was standing. Shittyok, with an excited expression, looked directly at him and questioned, were you the one who contacted us about Heo Jungtae? At this point, he still hadn't let go of Jungtae and replied, yes. Upon seeing this, he displayed an enthusiastic expression in response. Good, he's notorious for his stealth skills. So how did you manage it? Shittyok looked at the phone screen with increasingly bright eyes and continued,
Then send us your hunter registration number for the reward, okay?
After that, he tapped the screen a few times. Then, Shiryuk handed the phone to Kang-hoo, who took it and replied, "It's done." He also responded, "Thanks for cooperating." He successfully transferred the funds to him with the announcement, "We've sent you 300 million won and the dungeon lease contract." In the dark night, Do-hoon stood silently, staring into the indefinite void. Kang-hoo slowly approached and remarked, "It's surprising that you chose not to seek revenge." He exhaled and chuckled lightly. If it were him, he wouldn't want that to happen. Do-hoon looked up at the sky. He thought, both of us wanted a place to trust in such a harsh world. We hoped the NSA and Junghwa Guild would be that place. Finally, Do-hoon concluded, "So I want us to make the NSA pay for their mistakes, and that's why." He glanced over to where Kang-hoo was standing and said, "If what you're saying is true, then I can't let Junghwa Guild and NSA alone." At that moment, a thought crossed Kang-hoo's mind. He will continue down the same path as in the book. Fragments of memories surfaced along with his thoughts, like Yu Do-hoon, who led the uprising against the NSA. The scenes of battle continued without any sign of stopping. He thought, in the novel, he is an antagonist and an enemy of the Junghwa Guild, like me. Standing opposite Do-hoon, Kang-hoo's thoughts continued. He was caught by Chae Guan-hyung in the Heo Jungtae incident in the novel, but this time we left no trace, so it'll be fine. Then he said, "Anyway, I'm surprised." He raised his hand near his mouth and assessed, "You did this just for the reward." He explained without any hesitation, "I'm not the type to do volunteer work." A smile suddenly appeared on the corner of Kang-hoo's lips with a thought, and cutting off Chae Guan-hyung's limbs is a big reward. Guan-hyung looked at the letter, lightly crumpling it in his hand as he wondered, Heo Jungtae was caught in a condition with both arms severed? Shiryuk heard the question and replied honestly, "Yes, he's about to die, so we've taken him to the hospital." He sighed deeply, almost lying back down as he responded, "Okay, we can't use him anymore anyway." Guan Hyung's eyes flashed with anger, and he suggested, "Just tell me who the bastard is that did this." Shiryuk stared intently at the phone screen and confirmed, "Got it, I received his hunter registration number." His eyes became extremely astonished and fearful as he shouted, "Look at this." Guan Hyung stayed calm and asked again, "What is it?" Shiryuk quickly voiced the reasoning for his emotion. "The information has disappeared." He couldn't believe it as he looked carefully once more before reporting. Another police account has deleted the information. Guan Hyung's hand clenched into a fist as he listened to each subsequent report, thinking, "But that's the account of a dead person. There must be some mistake here." The table inside the room was slammed so hard it split in two. Guan Hyung glared at Shiryuk and shouted, "How am I supposed to believe that nonsense?" He didn't hesitate to yell loudly, "What are the Seoul police doing?" Shiryuk lowered his head, but couldn't hide his trembling as he responded, "We personally went to Yangpyeong, but since there were no suspicious individuals, we pulled back." Still aggressive, Guan Hyung flung his arm forward, yelling out, "What nonsense is this?" A voice attempted to calm him down, saying, "Calm down, Chae Guanyong," but it only seemed to increase his anger. An enigmatic circle appeared in front of the group. From within that circle, Shiwan emerged like an angel. He calmly posed a question with an unusual smile on his lips. "What's going on here?" Do-hoon fell into deep thought and then suddenly spoke up. "Anyway, I'm surprised." Each word continued to echo, drawing Kong-hoo into reflection as well, thinking that the reward was something he wanted. Then he asserted, "I am not the kind of person who does charity." Suddenly, a thought appeared in his mind. "That's why I took the item from Heo Yongtae." Suddenly, Do-hoon countered again, "But you still helped me with the revenge plan." And Kang-hoo was still not satisfied with the idea, thinking, "There's no better ally than the enemy of an enemy." At this point, a look of surprise appeared on Do-hoon's face, and he asked, "What?" He looked up and asserted, "I need a sword to attack the Junghwa Guild. It's not a bad decision to help you get revenge and gain an ally." These words made Do-hoon burst into laughter. "The Junghwa Guild, you sound like the protagonist in those novels." Mocked, Kang-hoo lowered his head and glanced sideways, wondering to himself, "Am I the protagonist?" The image of Shiwan appeared with his train of thought. "I am not the protagonist." Kang-hoo stood back to back with him in his mind, thinking, the villain Shin Kang-hoo exists as a contrasting shadow to let Jang Shiwan shine. Both continued to face each other in the night as Do-hoon made a decision, saying, "But, in that case, I'll go back to Seoul." Watching his back caused Kang-hoo to fall into deep thought. He stood silently, staring at the place where no one remained, sinking further into thought. Perhaps all I've been through until now. After embodying the role of the villain, Shin Kang-hoo, in the dark night filled with twinkling stars, Kang-hoo's thoughts were unending. This can exactly be seen as the character development I want to write in a novel. The scene shifted to inside a room with a loud scream of, "What the hell? What did the Seoul police do?" Guan Hyung was so angry that veins showed on his body as he silently calculated. "That's the area I removed from the security camera to hide Heo Jungtae. Damn it."
Shiwan came from the other side of the door and nonchalantly suggested, "Calm down, Che Guanyang."
He curled his lips into a faint smile and commented, "It seems Guanyang's mood isn't good." The others in the room were very excited seeing this scene and exclaimed, "Zhang Shiwan." Upon hearing his name, he straightforwardly suggested, "Get lost." His words immediately left the two slightly surprised, unable to believe their eyes. But just a moment later, they eagerly responded, "Yes, sir, understood." At this moment, after the two had left, only Shiwan and Guanhyung remained in the room. Shiwan hesitated as he spoke. "So then?" He glanced calmly at the person across from him and questioned, "What's going on?" Guanhyung, gritting his teeth in frustration, explained, "The spy I used to gather information has become unreliable. I think someone intentionally disrupted him." He shouted, "Who the hell dared?" At this moment, Shiwan's hand tightened on the chair to reassure him. "Come on." He tried to speak with extreme calm. "I've always said this before." Guan Hyung asked once more, "What?" Shiwan continued to reassure and added a question. "Calm down a bit. What's the issue?" Guan Hyung fell silent as the other person's words continued to echo, regardless of the irrelevant nuisances around. Shiwan smiled, hiding his irritation, expressing that all enemies on the path to their dreams would turn to dust. At the Yangsu station on Mount Buyong, a gentle hand was placed on a dog's nose. Kang Hu stood watching the stone dog in front of him and excitedly exclaimed, "Here it is." Then a thought began to emerge, realizing that this used to be a hidden dungeon in the novel. His lips pressed tightly together as he calculated how to let the protagonist, Zhang Shiwan, take advantage.
Kang Hu slowly walked away, leaving his thoughts behind, determined to be the one to use it this time.
His footsteps moved slowly across the wooden floor. A hand reached out in front to touch the familiar blade.
Kang Hu stood at the cave entrance, looking around cautiously.
From afar, a mid-level boss named Janyuang appeared. His eyes focused intently in that direction, and he thought, "This one is quite troublesome, and it's particularly dangerous if it's been hiding and waiting for its prey." In the dark night, both stood facing each other, ready to fight.
Janyung's three eyes simultaneously looked upward, waiting for something.
Then it started using its first attack, Shadow Step. Janyang watched Kang Hu closely, waiting for his every movement. Suddenly, a figure above with white eyes dissolved, leaving a figure with red eyes below. Janyung with white eyes rushed forward along with a few others.
Kang Hu calmly looked ahead, but thought, the timing of the attack is very important.
Janyung charged forward with a determined and frenzied look. He looked towards them, turning his face and swinging his weapon backward. As he timed his move precisely, Kang Hu thought, "Now's the time." The blade flew swiftly, but unfortunately it was easily dodged. In the next moment, he gracefully turned to prepare for the next attack. Then Kang Hu's weapon flew toward them, slicing through every group. The blade finally hit the ground, sending some dirt flying into the air. His actions prompted them all to rush forward a little more, unafraid. Kang Hu's eyes grew sharper, and he rushed forward with his weapon in hand. Suddenly, his foot leaped slightly higher, flying into the air. Kang Hu flew toward Janyuang, preparing for a direct attack. The sword was raised, and his eyes were resolute, ready to reunite it with the family lineage. Suddenly, Janyuang used a switching technique, causing its eyes to suddenly change color. A Janyung appeared behind Kang Hu, making him quickly turn to execute a stable spin. In his mind, a warning flashed, "Behind you." Janyuang rushed forward with the atmosphere more tense than before. Finally, another illusionary magic attack appeared, pushing him to attempt another strike. Kang Hu's gloved hand appeared, darting through the air. The blade from earlier was also just pulled out of the ground. Janyung continued to rush forward, showing no signs of stopping. Suddenly, Kang Hu's figure vanished, leaving it disoriented, unsure of how to react. He appeared from another direction, with eyes full of determination. The sky gradually turned a deep purple with a brilliant star appearing. A blade came swiftly from above, heading toward Janyung. The blade then pierced its head, leaving it no time to react. Kang Hu stood silently in a bush, watching Janyung's appearance. Finally, it fell, lying flat on the cold ground. His eyes casually glanced in that direction for a moment, and he thought, "It's done." Ultimately, Kang Hu jumped towards it, certain that it didn't anticipate his moves. Not to mention, he thought, I would track its attack. His fingers gradually extended, and attack at the precise moment. Janyung's figure slowly faded into the air. A sudden notification appeared, stating that you have defeated a mid-level boss. You acquired a skill from the target, Stealth Step, skill proficiency max level. The number of shadows increased to 5. You can instantly move to a designated shadow without needing to cast the skill. If a shadow goes beyond a 100-meter radius or is physically attacked, it disappears immediately. Shadows reflect your unconscious self and exist passively when deployed.
At this point, Kang Hu remarked, "This skill is quite broken."
Notifications continued to appear, confirming the increase in the number of shadows and the ability to use the skill without chanting. Finally, he grinned with satisfaction and declared, "Good, I will use it better than you." Another notification rang out, indicating a significant level increase. You have reached level 33. Kang Hu smiled and swung his knife backward, commenting, "The first step went smoothly." Elsewhere, Guan Hyung grinned with satisfaction and said, "Don't be smug. Nothing is absolute." Shiwan didn't understand this and immediately asked, "What do you mean?" His gaze became more serene as he softly called out, "Guan Hyung." He continued speaking without pause, "The entire world revolves around me." Shiwan arrogantly proclaimed, "I am perfect, I am justice, and I am the way." Kang Hu slowly took a few steps forward. Suddenly, another figure appeared, the true boss. He looked towards it and quietly calculated, "This is just like in a novel." Kang Hu suddenly spoke up, "Are you saying you're the protagonist?" Shihuan responded with a triumphant smile, "Exactly, I am the protagonist." A sudden thought crossed Kang Hu's mind, thinking, a battle with another self. The figure of that person gradually became clear, the main boss, Shin Kang Hu.